Want some zombies? Like, a lot of zombies? Like, way more zombies than you could possibly handle? Well, how about zombie facts? Does 770 sound good to you? Probably a little more manageable than 770 flesh-eating walkers, yeah? If you agree with that statement, then I've got quite the marathon for you. 9 Cinematica Walking Dead videos from yesteryear all gathered up and ready to watch in one place. Welcome back to Cinematica. I'm Keegan, and today we're gonna run through some facts about everyone's favorite AMC zombie show featuring Jon Bernthal. To get us all up to speed, why not kick things off with a timeline? This handy little video outlines all of the important events that you may or may not have forgotten over the years. The show did run for more than a decade after all. Taking us from the humble beginnings of Don't Dead Open Inside to the infamous Negan incident, all the way up to the final season. Without spoiling the final season, here is the Walking Dead timeline so far. This one came out on October 20th, 2022. Yes, it's still going strong. In this era of streaming, mainstream cable television is slowly finding itself unable to keep up with the always on-demand entertainment. This hasn't slowed The Walking Dead down any. Much like the walkers within the series, this show refuses to die. People love it. We once covered this series in one of our previous timelines, but I feel like we could stand to cover it again since new content has been released. The final season is here, supposedly, and soon enough all we'll have left is Fear the Walking Dead. I'm sure that'll suck for most of you, not because Fear the Walking Dead is bad, but because you'll be down a show. That time slot forever lost to the void of non-zombie drama. And so, to celebrate the show and give it the send-off it deserves, let's cover the newest season up to this point in our timeline. Much like the last timeline, we're not going to cover Fear the Walking Dead because that series is long enough to deserve its own timeline. So get your machetes and shotgun axes because we're going walker hunting. Pre-outbreak. In World War II, Rick Grimes' grandfather was a soldier. He fought against the Germans on the Western Front. During this time, he had very little faith in his survival, but he did end up surviving. I guess that surprised him. For a while, Rick would ask his grandfather about things he did in the war, including if he had killed any Germans. His grandfather would always shoot him down, telling him that this was adult stuff. But nonetheless, Rick would learn from his grandfather's experiences that would help him to survive in the future. Merle and Daryl, on the other hand, had a crappy childhood. At a young age, their home burns down and they lose their mother. Their father is an abusive a-hole who doesn't keep track of his sons very well. This is shown when Daryl disappears for 9 days and the father didn't even seem to notice. Merle eventually moves out after having enough, leaving Daryl alone with their father, who heaps a double portion of abuse on his last remaining family member. Eventually, Daryl and Merle meet up again and go back to being brothers. Delinquent, drug-addicted brothers. Oh, happy days. The Green family, 150 years prior to the outbreak, buys the farm. No, I mean they literally buy a farm. Herschel ends up in charge of it, but he's an alcoholic, until his daughter's born. Then he's not. Herschel's first wife dies, but you can't keep a good farmer down, so he remarries and has another daughter named Beth. There's also Sean, but you don't really need to bother with him. Michonne lives with her boyfriend Mike and their son Andre. 131 days before the outbreak, the CDC encounters their first strain of the zombo virus. They name it Wildfire and decide, let's experiment with it and let it into dead bodies. Elsewhere, Ranger Rick is a cop who lives with his wife Lori and his son Carl. One day, while on duty, Rick is shot and falls into a coma. Shane tells this to Lori and decides to keep an eye and other body parts on Lori during Rick's absence. This is when the outbreak begins to make the news. Outbreaks start to day 83, days gone by. The zombo epidemic becomes a zombo pandemic. It's everywhere now. Shane goes and rescues Rick, who's still comatose. Suddenly, the military shows up and starts the prologue of Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain, but this time for reals. Shane barricades the door and hoofs it with Rick to a refugee camp. However, they're caught in gridlock and get to watch the military drop jungle juice on Atlanta Vietnam style, which kills all escaping patients. This is totally out of the realm of reality, and this is how we know the show is fake. The military would never do that, right? With nowhere else to go, Shane and company set up shop in an old quarry outside the city. Carol Peltier and her family join them there. Elsewhere in Baltimore, Lydia and her parents are hiding in an emergency shelter. Weeks go by and nobody comes for them, and so Lydia's mom goes bonkers, kills her husband, and takes Lydia. In another place, Michonne, Mike, and Andre, now along with Terry, go to a refugee camp, but that camp is later attacked by creepers, which ends in Andre's death. She blames Mike and Terry for it, so she pulls out a freaking samurai sword and cuts off their arms and jaws, deciding to use them as zombie bait. Brutal. Rick, having survived, wakes up in the middle of a Scarowinds commercial and is just about as confused as you can imagine. He's taken in by Dwayne and Morgan Jones, who give him a short recap of the series thus far to help him realize that everyone died while he was in a coma. I mean, imagine waking up from a coma in this. They go get more guns and part ways. Rick decides to go to Atlanta and find his family, but instead he finds a bigger gun. A freaking tank. Too bad he's trapped inside of it because zombies. Rick gets a nice radio call from a guy named Glenn who Rick teams up with. With the help of Glenn, Rick gets back to his family. Happy times. Well, except for Lori, who is suddenly regretting letting Shane keep his eye and other various body parts on her. Everyone's on cloud 9, but suddenly, zombie. The entire camp gets attacked by the Walking Dead and Carol's husband gets eaten. The survivors of the previous survivors decide to go to the CDC to live there, thinking they'll be safe from the disease. How cute their tiny smooth brains are. Dr. Jenner says they're all zombos now and decides to blow up everything. They try to escape through a deserted highway, but, you know, zombos. They're everywhere in this show. You might as well name the series after... oh wait. Anyway, Sophia disappears into the woods and Carl gets shot. They rush him to Herschel's farm for medical care and the entire group relocates. Guess what? There are zombos on the farm, but nobody knows. Don't tell anyone. Shane shoots Otis and Glenn and Maggie Green decide to do the dirty. Lori reveals the truth to Rick that she and Shane have been getting cozy in the cone together, and Rick is obviously pissed. Anyway, after a lot of stuff happens, including the killing of a guy named Randall, Shane pulls a gun on Rick, and so Rick pulls a knife and kills him. Carl then re-kills Shane because zombies are a thing here. The gunshot attracts more walkers, and the Green family farm is burned to the ground. Day 84 to 321, Rise of the Governor. Andrea and Michonne end up meeting up. These two stay together for the rest of the season. I mean, if you meet a lady who has survived on her own, enslaved zombies, and carries a samurai sword, you'd stick with her too. Rick and the rest of the group decide to take shelter in a prison. While there, Herschel gets bitten by a walker, which ends with him getting his leg cut off. While in prison, they find that there are still prisoners. No need to talk to them though. They get the axe. Zombos show up and kill T-Dog and Lori. Maggie performs a C-section to save the baby. Rick then re-kills his dead wife because zombie. Michonne and Andrea come upon a town known as Woodbury that is run by a man who is only known as the Governor. Merle is there, and now he has a badass sword arm and works for the Governor. Michonne doesn't trust the guy, but Andrea does, and so the two go their separate ways, with Michonne leaving town. However, she's hunted down by Merle and Red Shirts. Glenn and Maggie get captured instead, so Michonne tells Rick at the prison. Michonne later finds the government's zombified daughter in the basement. Michonne and the government fight, but due to the roughhousing, someone loses an eye. The Governor now hates Rick's group, but Andrea doesn't, so she decides to play peacemaker to set up a meeting between Rick and the Governor. The Governor tells Rick that the only way to prevent the war is to give up Michonne, but Rick doesn't, and so the Governator decides to attack them, but Rick and company are ready for it, and so a battle erupts and Rick's group wins. Huzzah! Andrea's bitten. Boo! She dies, and Rick decides to take the rest of the people from Woodbury into his group. Day 321 to 554. Life among them. The Governor don't got no friends, so he finds Tara Chandler and her family and sweet talks them. His supervillain eye patch doesn't dissuade them at all, and he convinces them to attack the prison. Dwayne Jones died, and so Morgan has lost his mind and wanders alone. He meets a man and a goat and learns karate. Back at the prison, Rick feels like retiring from being in the apocalypse and wants to be a farmer. All is peaceful until day 500 of the apocalypse. They introduce a new questionnaire intended to test survivors. How many walkers have you killed? How many people have you killed, and why? Mr. the Governor shows up again with his new army and begins to destroy the prison, and the group is torn apart. Oh yeah, he cuts off Herschel's head with a samurai sword. But they get the Governor killed, so Herschel has been avenged. Everyone after this has their own little one-off adventures. Beth is captured by cops and wakes up in a hospital. In the end, all of them are led to Terminus, where they find not a falling moon and a mentally unstable Russian squat dancing mass demon who try to eat Rick and his friends, but they fricked with the wrong people and all die. Meanwhile, Morgan and his karate masters are still living their best lives until zombies show up and eat the karate man and the goat, leaving Morgan alone to continue his journey. They meet a priest and try to rescue Beth. This leads them to Grady Memorial Hospital, but Beth dies anyway. Rick and company are rescued by Aaron, and he takes them to the Alexandria safe zone. Day 584 to 628. All-out war. The group is settling into Alexandria, and Carl gets shot in the eye. Fun. Rick and Michonne end up shipping. A member of a neighboring hilltop colony warns them of a rival faction known as the Saviors. The Saviors fleece the hilltop colony in exchange for not killing them, and thus Rick and his group are enlisted to deal with these people. Rick and company attack a Savior outpost, and Carol kills people by catching them on fire. She's not okay about that. She decides to leave the group because she doesn't want to be a part of the cycle of violence any longer. Meanwhile, the Saviors learn about the outpost and come knocking. They capture Rick and take him to their leader, Negan, who has that cliche baseball bat that he named Lucille that he took to Glenn and Abraham. The group quickly changes sides and joins Negan because they don't want to get Glenn and Abrahamed. After a week though, Michonne says they can't keep this up and tells Rick to instigate a rebellion. Meanwhile, Carol and Morgan discover a settlement known as the Kingdom, led by a guy with a tiger. Morgan is always running into characters with animal sidekicks. I half expect him to show up in a Disney princess movie now.
Tara discovers Oceanside and Heath is gone. Rick decides to convince other colonies to team up against Negan, but nobody does. Spencer tries to get into Negan's good graces, but Negan stabs him instead. Rosita shoots at Negan, but Negan deflects the thing with his baseball bat like a Jedi Knight or something. This reveals that Eugene can make bullets, and so the Saviors snag him for use. Rosita is still upset because Negan isn't a walker yet, so she teams up with Sasha and the two sneak into the sanctuary. Sasha is captured, but Eugene gives her a cyanide pill, which she uses to turn into a walker and attack Negan. This doesn't kill Negan though, but Carl does start blasting like a badass. Negan puts down this little rebellion, but before he can kill Carl, the Hilltop Colony and the Kingdom rush in guns blazing. After this, the Coalition decide to go to war against Negan, and to do that, they're just gonna smash some outposts before attacking Sanctuary. Maggie takes over as a leader of the Hillside Colony and teams up with Georgie, a lady who is from a community with technology and stuff. The Kingdom takes heavy losses and Carl dies, but he dies because of Zombo, not war. As the final battle draws near, Eugene sabotages the Saviors' bullets and destroys their weapons as Oceanside starts raining fire on them. Rick and Negan fight, but Rick comes out on top when he slices Negan's neck. Negan doesn't die though because Rick decides he doesn't want to kill him. Day 628 to 1448, The Bridge. Lydia and her mother meet Beta in an abandoned hospital. They all kill some walkers and decide to start the Whispers together. This group of people are the kind that wear zombie masks and pretend to be zombies because I guess zombies attack you when they see that you're alive. It's probably not by smell or any other primal sense, they just see you and they're like, hey, that guy's alive, brains! During this time, Morgan decides to leave the show and join the spin-off. The remaining Saviors join the militia and end up under Daryl. Meanwhile, because Negan is still alive, everyone's on edge, and Rick doesn't care because he's too busy building a bridge. Nobody but Rick wants it, starting to feel like Rick's lost his leadership skills. Maggie has a baby now that she names after Herschel. She decides that she wants to Glenn and Abraham Negan, but she also decides to spare him because Negan is now a sad husk. Also, remember that bridge that Rick forced them all to make against their will? Yeah, well, walkers are crossing it now and attack the community. Leadership skills. Also, Rick is impaled because even his horse disagrees with him now. Rick has a dramatic death scene where he shoots the explosives and blows up the bridge along with the walkers, but turns out it's all for naught because Rick doesn't die. Instead, he gets rescued and airlifted. Daryl and Michonne look for Rick along the riverbank, but only find his badass revolver. It's then that Michonne meets up with her old friend Jocelyn, who is general of an army of Rugrats. Michonne then kills all the kids and gets traumatized by it and locks down Alexandria. Day 1448 to 3607, The Whisperer War. 6-year time skip. Alexandria is still locked down and the kingdom starts falling apart. Daryl and his dog decide to leave, and Maggie and Georgie are off doing their own thing as well, and Michonne gives birth to Rick's child. Ezekiel wants to save the kingdom by planning a fair, but it's a question whether Michonne will let Alexandria participate. Judith, though, she decides it's time to open Alexandria's doors again and takes it upon herself to make sure it happens. She invites some new cast members into Alexandria. Michonne isn't happy about this. Daryl and his group encounter the Whisperers. They capture Alpha's daughter, though, Lydia. While in prison, Lydia ships with Henry. Alpha doesn't like that, so she sneaks into the fair and kidnaps Sadiq, Tara, Enid, Henry, and 7 other nameless cast members. She then decapitates them in front of Sadiq. Alpha puts the heads of those she killed on a pike, and Daryl discovers the walker horde that the Whisperers have been gathering. A few months pass, and then Alexandria invites a new group of survivors featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series. Dante joins Sadiq in the infirmary. After the events of the fair, the kingdom crashes, and so does Carol and Ezekiel's romance. Months pass by, and the colonies have become a single group dedicated to stopping the rise of more villains like Negan. Rosita gives birth to her own and Sadiq's baby, Coco. Judith later finds a Whisperer mask washed up on the beach. Everyone gets into a lather about it, including Carol, who wishes to get vengeance for Henry's death. After this, the water supply is poisoned and many people get sick. Sadiq discovers Dante's treachery, but is killed before he can say anything. Daryl has been meeting with a Whisperer to find the secret base of Alpha, and Michonne sets sail for a naval base to collect supplies. Daryl leads a group of fighters to where he found the walkers, but finds it barren save for Alpha, who leads them into a trap. The group makes their way through the cave, and after finding some faulty dynamite, Carol sets it off in an attempt to kill all the walkers. Most of the team except for Connie and Magna escape. Negan then informs Alpha of Gamma's possible betrayal, and to say thank you for his help, she and he, well, Negan gets to keep an eye on other body parts on Alpha for a little while. Gamma comes to Alexandria to tell everyone what happened, but is instead put in jail. Daryl tries to find a way back into the cave, but instead finds Alpha. The two fight, and both are critically wounded. Lydia saves Daryl, and Alpha apparently pulls a Goku and gets a Zenkai boost. Beta invades Alexandria via secret tunnels and attacks many citizens. Gamma offers to leave with him if he leaves now, but instead he just leaves because he's outnumbered. Eugene then learns the mysterious radio person's name, Stephanie, and Alpha and the Whisperers plan their attack. Carol and Daryl make up, and Alexandria prepares for attack. The Whisperers attack Hilltop by torching it with flammable tree sap. As Hilltop burns, Judith kills a Whisperer that she thought was a walker, and this affects her until Earl shows up and takes her away. Magna escapes by pretending to be a walker, but Connie's fate is unknown. While luring walkers away from Alden and Kelly, Gamma is found and killed by Beta. Earl, after getting the children to safety, dies from being bitten by a walker and is then re-killed by Judith thereafter. Negan then lures Alpha to a cabin, claiming that Lydia is inside. However, he decapitates her after it's revealed that he was working with Carol. I guess she wasn't stronger than ever, huh? Michonne arrives at the naval base with Virgil. I am the storm that's approaching. They find no weapons and it's shown to be a trap. Virgil drugs her, and during her time under the shroom, she dreams a what if about siding with the Saviors. She then comes to and stabs Virgil, but doesn't kill him after discovering that Rick Grimes may still be alive. She tells Judith this along with her hopes to find him. Negan tries to convince Daryl that he killed Alpha, but this isn't proven until after he kills more Whisperers who want to make him the new Alpha. Meanwhile, it's revealed that Beta is basically Alan Jackson and plays his own record to call some walkers to him. He then pulls an Optimus and removes Alpha's face to use as a mask. Also, Eugene and friends go to meet Stephanie. However, Princess scares off their horses and offers to lead them to a transport. Meanwhile, Beta leads the horde to Alexandria, but it's empty. The Alexandrians are living in a hospital, and so Beta decides to head there. The hospital is surrounded and Beatrice is killed. However, Daryl and some others attempt to lead the walkers away with loud music on a wagon, but Whisperers destroy it. Daryl and the others then kill the Whisperers and wound Beta, who is then eaten by walkers. They then lead the walkers off a cliff. Maggie then later shows up and gets a massive recap of the season thus far. Daryl and the others follow Maggie back to her safe haven, but it turns out that the haven isn't very safe because everyone is dead and little baby Herschel is missing. They're then informed of the Reapers and everyone else is killed too besides Daryl and Maggie, but they get Herschel back. Yay. They then make their way to Alexandria. Daryl then goes hunting and doesn't want Carol to come, but she comes anyway. They find a cabin that Daryl remembers from after he left Alexandria with a dog. Turns out he found the dog's owner and began shipping with her until they had an argument and never saw each other again. He then blames Carol for Connie's fate and they fight before going their separate ways. Aaron and Gabriel go to a storehouse only to find it empty. The next day, they're captured by a man named Maze who forces the two to play Russian roulette. They try to convince Maze that not everyone is evil, but he instead tells them what he did to his family. In the end, Gabriel kills Maze with Aaron's mace, and they find his captive brother and dead family upstairs. They attempt to free the brother, but he commits suicide instead. Eugene and the others end up captured by a strange military force and are placed in boxcars. During this time, Princess ends up getting a splinter that gives her PTSD. She then begins to see Ezekiel everywhere, but he's just a hallucination. She ends up interrogating a soldier, but the group ends up captured again. After Carol and Daryl split up, Carol goes back to Alexandria and makes soup, because soup makes everything better. Then she begins doing all sorts of things to help the community, such as fix the solar panels and catch the rats getting into their grain. Meanwhile, Daryl's bike breaks down and he ends up fighting walkers wearing armor. He eventually returns to Alexandria where he and Carol have a small passing conversation, but the two are still not in the mood to be pals. Negan is banished to Leah's cabin for his own safety, and while there he gets a character development flashback designed to make us like him, but never forget that he beat Glenn and Abraham to death. He is still bad. Bad man. Don't listen to his stories. Alexandria's food is running out, and so Maggie leads a group to find more. However, they end up in a subway station and surrounded by walkers. They attempt to escape up a ladder, but Negan abandons her and she falls. See, I told you that he was still a bad man. Eugene and his friends manage to escape from the Commonwealth. However, Yumiko realizes her brother might be with them and elects to stay behind. Maggie manages to reunite with the rest of the group and reveals Negan's treachery. They later find Roy and Gage, who had run off with their supplies. He begs Maggie to save him, but she refuses and he kills himself before he's devoured. Roy is found by Daryl, but is later killed when the new threat to make the season more attractive shows up, the Reapers. Yumiko asks for faster processing, and Eugene does as well. The Commonwealth auditors then introduce them to a woman named Stephanie. The Reapers then ambush Maggie's group and kills Cole and Duncan, causing their team to scatter. Maggie ends up meeting up with Negan and Alden. However, Alden is wounded and asks to be left behind. Maggie and Negan go on by themselves. Carol and some of the others find the lost horses, and so Carol decides to kill one of the horses to make food for the starving people. I would mention horse meat here, but considering we've run into cannibals by now and watched Rick bite a man's throat out, this just doesn't seem as bad. Daryl and his dog are separated from each other, but Daryl finds Dog with one of the Reapers, a woman revealed to be his old flame, Leah. He's then taken to Meridian, where he's tortured by the group. He divulges only minimal info to appease the group's leader, Pope, who then locks him and Leah in a shed and sets it on fire. The two escape, and Pope changes tunes, telling Daryl that he's welcome to join them. Daryl is slightly mistrusting of Pope, though, because he tried to burn him alive, obviously. Carol and friends go to the remains of the Hilltop Colony, where they find a few surviving Whisperers. Aaron tortures them for information, and nearly kills their leader, but Carol stops him. The leader divulges that Connie is alive, and tells them where to find her. Carol and her group decide to go looking for her the next day. Yumiko ends up finding her brother Tommy, and Eugene and Stephanie are arrested, but then freed when the deputy governor orders it. Negan and Maggie end up hiding in a house where they plan to wait for the others. They're later joined by Gabriel and Elijah. Connie and Virgil are surviving together when they stumble upon a mansion full of cannibals. Damn, I had to say something, didn't I? They manage to defeat the cannibals while Carol and her group show up to help them. Elsewhere, Daryl is forced to torture Frost for some info regarding Maggie's group, and Daryl then attempts to sabotage the Reapers while they search for Maggie. When they return to Meridian, they find that Pope killed Frost after further interrogation. Eugene and Stephanie are sentenced to community service and have to clear walkers from buildings. They manage to save Sebastian, the son of the governor, but when the boy is a prick about it, Eugene knocks his block off and gets put in jail. Lance offers to let him out if he gives up Alexandria's location. Negan then teaches Maggie how to command walkers like a whisperer. A storm brews and then destroys many of the walls of Alexandria. This allows walkers to get into the village. Elsewhere, Carol is surprised and disgusted by how little Pope values his own men's life. This is shown when he tries to fire one of those whatchamacallits at both Walker and Reaper alike, but Leah kills him finally and takes command of the Reapers. However, Daryl outs his allegiance to Maggie and her group, and so she turns the weapon on them. The Walkers are killed by the Whatcha, and Maggie and Daryl escape. They capture Carver and offer to trade him back. In the end, Maggie kills all the Reapers except for Leah. Negan also bites the dust because he knows Maggie will never get over him until he's dead and he doesn't want to deal with her crap anymore. They return to Alexandria to see it weather the storm. However, it isn't much longer until Eugene leads the Commonwealth to Alexandria. After a 6-month time skip, it's shown that Daryl is working with the Commonwealth and has the Hilltop Colony, of which Maggie is leading the survivors there, and a confrontation begins. A month after Alexandria enters Commonwealth, Daryl and Rosita try to join the military. Most of Alexandria realizes how sophisticated Commonwealth is and has a hard time adjusting to it. They go to a gala, but a disgraced soldier, Tyler Davis, takes Max hostage so he can talk with the governor, but he flees instead. Daryl convinces him to surrender, but allows Sebastian to take credit for it. Eugene then gets all lovey-dovey with Stephanie, but she's not feeling it and decides to ditch him. He searches for her tirelessly and discovers that she wasn't even named Stephanie, but instead Shira, and was placed in the group under Lane due to too many inconsistencies during the auditing process. However, Eugene is confronted by a woman named Max, who reveals herself to be the real Stephanie all along. Max reveals that she broke protocol to talk to him like she had, and her brother Mercer had to cover for her, which meant that she needed to stay silent when Shira was impersonating her with Eugene. Eugene is all hurt and storms off, but later they come back and begin to ship. Governor Milton tours Alexandria and the other territories, where she butts heads with Maggie over leadership qualities. As such, many people in the Hilltop Colony abandon her for Commonwealth. Ezekiel is then sent into surgery to remove a tumor, being moved up the list by Lance as a special favor to Carol. Aaron and Gabriel are sent alongside Toby Carlson to a neighboring complex to offer them membership to the Commonwealth, but the leader Ian refuses. Toby murders him and reveals that his job was to eradicate the complex after they were accused of destroying a Commonwealth caravan. But guess what? That bastard Negan lives here now. He sends a message to Maggie, who sends troops to attack the Commonwealth. Sebastian forces Daryl and Rosita to get some money for him from a Walker-infested building. There they encounter April, who dies. Mercer kills 2 troopers loyal to Sebastian and tells Daryl to deliver the money to Sebastian, else he fears retribution. It's revealed that Negan married Annie, and they help Aaron and the others defend the complex. They then kill Carlson. However, Herschel Rhee, who stowed away on a truck, appears and forces Negan to confess to the murder of his father and nearly kills him before being talked down. Also, it was revealed that it was Leah who had raided the Commonwealth caravan. Lance questions Aaron and the others, and later questions those at the Hilltop Colony, but is threatened by Maggie and Elijah. Mercer and Princess start, well, let's just skip them for now. Ezekiel opens a clinic to help those far down in the list and enlists Tommy to help him, so that's great. Lance knows he's getting nowhere with Maggie and decides to just take over through force. He also orders Daryl, Aaron, and Gabriel's deaths. Their soldiers betray them, but they narrowly escape. Maggie then leaves Herschel with Negan and Annie while she prepares for war. However, she's kidnapped by Leah, and Daryl shows up to save her, killing Leah. Max convinces the members of Alexandria to post an article about Governor Milton's lies, and Lance takes over Alexandria, Hilltop Colony, and Oceanside, where he flips a coin to decide the latter's fate. Lance then hunts down Daryl, but Daryl is rescued by Negan. Daryl sends Negan to spy for him in Commonwealth. While there, he's captured by Mercer, who interrogates him, causing Negan to reveal his identity. Meanwhile, after a group of rogue citizens begin hunting Sebastian, Governor Milton, desperate, strikes up a deal with Carol, who is sent to deliver Sebastian back to his mother safely. However, underground, they're caught in a standoff. Well, I think that's it, at least until the next episodes drop.
With the timeline sorted, let's get into some of the bloody, juicy, and grisly details. The first season of The Walking Dead changed primetime TV and got everyone all hyped up for the zombie apocalypse. Everything was about zombies for a bit then, and everyone you knew, from your uncle to that one guy in your rugby team, thought that they would survive the zombie apocalypse. They had the best strategies. What a time to be alive. To help you remember what it was like back then and get you reacquainted with the early on to the series, here is 107 The Walking Dead Season 1 facts that you should know from all the way back in January 2016.
Zombies have been an integral part of pop culture for decades now, but it wasn't until The Walking Dead's debut that they catapulted to unprecedented popularity. Despite its explosive success, it wasn't an easy road for Robert Kirkman and Frank Darabont to bring this now beloved TV show to life. Think you know the whole story? Think again. I'm Alyssa, and I'm here to give you the story behind the 6 episodes that started it all, The Walking Dead Season 1. And it's almost too crazy to believe. So sit back, grab some snacks, and get ready to see Cinematica's 107 facts you should know about The Walking Dead Season 1. Number 1. Robert Kirkman and his childhood friend Tony Moore created The Walking Dead in 2003 as a series for Image Comics. Charlie Adler took over the art from Moore starting on issue number 7. Number 2. It was inspired by George A. Romero's iconic zombie films, Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. Number 3. In fact, The Walking Dead was originally conceived as a Night of the Living Dead series. Due to copyright error, the film has long been in the public domain, and Kirkman and Moore designed their series to be a follow-up to it, but Image Comics suggested that they turn it into something they could actually own. Number 4. The word zombie is never spoken in the Walking Dead universe.
Any zombies out there? Don't say that.
Kirkman wanted the characters to be completely off guard when it came to the living dead, so he wrote a world where zombie pulp culture never existed. Did you happen to stumble across the Z word in the comics? Kirkman said it's because he legit forgot to call them something else. Number 5. Kirkman drew inspiration from real-life natural disasters, notably Hurricane Katrina, to help understand how his characters would react to an event as monumental as the zombie apocalypse. Number 6. Frank Darabont, the acclaimed screenwriter and director of The Shawshank Redemption and Green Mile, adapted The Walking Dead for television. Number 7. Darabont always wanted to work in the horror genre but never found the right project, until he stumbled across The Walking Dead comics at House of Secrets, a comic book shop in Burbank, California. The very next day, he tried to buy the rights to the series. Number 8. Kirkman entrusted The Walking Dead to Darabont because he knew that he, quote, not only read the comic, but understood the comic. Number 9. The TV project was rejected by pretty much every network, including HBO for excessive violence, before AMC ordered 6 episodes in 2010. We hope someone at AMC got a promotion for that. Fact number 10. The first season shot in Sonoya, Georgia, a popular filming location in the South. Other Sonoya shoots include the remake of Footloose, Fried Green Tomatoes, Driving Miss Daisy, and Pet Sematary 2. Number 11. Despite plenty of other popular movies having been shot there, Sonoya didn't become a major tourist attraction until The Walking Dead. Number 12. Rick's hometown, Kings County, is not a real town, but instead a reference to Darabont's longtime friend and collaborator, Stephen King. Number 13. The lead character, Rick Grimes, is played by Andrew Lincoln, best known for his role in Love Actually as the most romantic cue card writer of all time. Number 14. You might be surprised to learn that Andrew Lincoln is British, given his last name, but that's because it's not his real last name at all. He was born as the incredibly British-sounding Andrew Clutterbuck, which is giving Benedict Cumberbatch a serious run for his money. Number 15. Thomas Jane was Darabont's first choice for Rick. He was working on HBO's Hung at the time and couldn't take the part. Jane was also the first choice for Don Draper, the lead character in another AMC show, Mad Men. I think Jane needs to have a word with his agent. Number 16. Darabont's other choice for Rick was Jamie Bamber, who played Lee Adama in Battlestar Galactica. Number 17. Ethan Embry also auditioned for the role of Rick. Even though he didn't get it, Embry eventually showed up in season 6 as Carter, one of the most, outspoken of the Alexandrians. Number 18. Atlanta native Chandler Riggs was only 10 years old when he was cast as Rick's son, Carl. Number 19. Carl's first seen wearing a shirt emblazoned with the Science Dog logo. Science Dog is a superhero who exists in the Invincible universe, another comic written by Kirkman. Number 20. Prior to being cast as Shane, Rick's best friend, Jon Bernthal played semi-pro baseball in Russia. Number 21. The acting thing seems to have worked out for Bernthal though. Since playing Shane, he's been in another Darabont project, Mob City, as well as Martin Scorsese's Wolf of Wall Street. And he'll soon play Frank Castle, aka The Punisher, in the upcoming season of Daredevil on Netflix. Number 22. Norman Reedus, best known for his role as Murphy in the 1999 cult classic Boondock Saints, originally auditioned for the role of Merle Dixon. That part would go to Michael Rooker, but everyone was so impressed by Reedus that they created a new character just for him, Merle's brother Daryl. Number 23. Reedus is the definition of multi-talented. In addition to acting, he has modeled for Gap and H&M, worked as an artist in Europe, and was even a soccer prodigy as a kid. Number 24. Reedus has also acted in music videos for Mark Romanek and David Fincher, and was also in Lady Gaga's music video for Judas. Number 25. On his first day as Daryl Dixon, Reedus got whiplash and scratched up his whole back during a fight scene with Bernthal. Acting is serious business, kids. Proceed with caution. Number 26. According to Kirkman, Reedus was given freedom to help shape the role. This process helped Daryl's arc evolve going into season 2. Number 27. Daryl's famous crossbow is a Horton Scout HD 125, which can be bought at Walmart. Number 28. Daryl's back tattoos are the real deal. Reedus has a total of 3. Another is under his arm because he likes to, quote, carry his demons with him. Number 29. In addition to Merle, you might know Michael Rooker from Guardians of the Galaxy, Henry, Portrait of a Killer, Cliffhanger, JFK, and Mallrats.
Anybody else?
Number 30. Like Daryl, Merle wasn't in the original comics either. The Dixon brothers are true originals. Number 31. A SWAT team was called in by some concerned neighbors when Rooker's character Merle shot at zombies from the building top. The producers had to explain that they were just shooting a show and he wasn't a real sniper. Number 32. While handcuffs are difficult to escape from when applied properly, they're not that restrictive. Merle's escape from the rooftop in episode 3 could have easily been performed by breaking the chain or, if really necessary, removing his thumb. Someone should have told Merle that before he chopped off his entire hand. Number 33. Sarah Wayne Callie scored the role of Lori Grimes, Rick's wife. She was previously a regular on the Fox show Prison Break. Number 34. Callie's also appeared in Law & Order in 2000. 2003. Know who else was on that show during its 20-season run? Her co-stars Norman Reedus, Lauren Cohen, who plays Maggie, Emily Kinney, who plays Beth, and Chad Coleman, who plays Tyrese. Number 35. Glenn steals the same Dodge Challenger that Walt purchases for Walt Jr. in season 6 of Breaking Bad. AMC reused it. Number 36. Actor Jeffrey DeMunn, who plays Dale, has actually played a small role in every single film directed by Darabont. Number 37. Like Bernthal, DeMunn joined Darabon's project Mob City, but sadly it was canceled after the first season. Number 38. The cast had to film in heat that flared well over 100 degrees, and people often fainted while on set. Reedus claims they had 20,000 packets of emergency present just to help prevent fatigue. Number 39. Before being cast as Glenn, actor Steven Yeun was pre-med and graduated with a degree in psychology and a concentration on neuroscience from Kalamazoo College. Number 40. Yeun was born Yeon Sang-yup in South Korea. His family immigrated to America when he was just 5 years old. Number 41. Despite his dramatic and action-packed role on The Walking Dead, Yeun's background was actually in Chicago comedy improv, where he followed in the footsteps of Daily Show correspondent Jordan Klepper. Number 42. Yeun has said the walkers' prop guts have a very strong, revolting rubber smell, so getting a genuinely disgusted reaction from actors isn't that difficult. Number 43. The walkers' blinking is edited out in post-production, and their sounds are later added in order to make them look and feel more authentic. Number 44. Iron E. Singleton was cast as T-Dog. He was best known for his performance as the manipulative drug dealer in The Blind Side, for which Sandra Bullock won an Oscar. Number 45. Singleton is an Atlanta native and went to the University of Georgia. He even played on the Georgia Bulldogs football team in 1997. Number 46. T-Dog's character was only meant to last 3 episodes, but the character was so well received that he was extended for 3 seasons. Number 47. Composer Bear McCreary used untuned bluegrass instruments to score scenes featuring the walkers. To get such eerie sounds from otherwise cheery instruments, McCreary had guitarist Steve Bartek play the music as if he were a zombie himself. Number 48. Director of photography David Boyd aims to instill a feeling of wrongness in every shot. He accomplishes this in many small ways, such as draining warm colors, shooting on film so the color blue is more pronounced, and tilting the camera angles so they're not perfectly horizontal. That's right, The Walking Dead is shot on Super 16mm film, folks. Number 49. Melissa McBride, a former actor and current casting director for Stillwell Casting in Atlanta, scored the role of Carol. Number 50. McBride actually cast Singleton in a Rooms to Go ad back in the day. Number 51. Darabont previously cast McBride in his 2007 film The Mist. She was up for a big role, but instead found a smaller role more compelling. It was a 2-minute scene in which she played a distraught mother. Her performance was so impactful, Darabont offered her Carol. Number 52. McBride figured her role would be short-term since she was in only 3 of the first season's 6 episodes. That's funny, Melissa. Number 53. Horror special effects veteran Greg Nicotero was brought on to create the most realistic zombies ever seen on screen. He got to start working on Day of the Dead, as well as many other classic horror franchises, such as A Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Phantasm, Evil Dead, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Number 54. All of the Walking Dead zombies are created at Nicotero's makeup effects studio, KNB FX Group. He founded the company in 1988 with Howard Berger, and since then the studio has worked on over 800 Hollywood films. Number 55. KNB is currently located in a state-of-the-art 20,000 square foot facility in Chatsworth, California, a neighborhood in the northwestern San Fernando Valley region of Los Angeles. Number 56. Nicotero was a protege of makeup legend Tom Savini. Nicotero was originally pre-med, but changed course when Savini asked him to be his assistant on The Day of the Dead. Just think, both Nicotero and Yeun could have been doctors. Number 57. Nicotero's pre-med background came in handy though. It got him a job on the 1989 medical film Gross Anatomy, which needed realistic cadavers. Number 58. There's no doubt Nicotero is good with fake body parts. He and his KNB crew were behind the infamous ear-cutting scene in Reservoir Dogs. Number 59. Actors casted as walkers are required to go to zombie school to get into character. As part of the process, Nicotero recommends that they wait outside of a bar at 3 a.m. and mimic the people walking out to help master a walker's movements. Number 60. The actors playing walkers were originally munching on ham and barbecue sauce during the gory eating scenes, but Nicotero had to change to vinegar because the barbecue sauce was melting off their makeup. Number 61. There are 4 types of zombies on set: Alpha, Beta, Charlie, and Delta. Alphas have the most makeup and are seen the most. Betas have latex masks, less makeup, and are in the near background. Charlie and Delta just wear masks because they take less time to apply and are only seen in the far background. Number 62. Every zombie is unique. Nicotero creates the makeup for each one based on the face he is working with. Number 63. Nicotero also bases the zombies' look on artist and illustrator Charlie Adler's drawings of the zombies in the original comic. Number 64. Each walker has their own set of dentures, which they build the prosthetics on top of. Number 65. By making the nose smaller, building up the cheekbones and brows, and removing the lips, the decaying mouth is created. It's now the signature look of the Walking Dead zombies. Number 66. This emphasis on the mouth is intentional. Nicotero and his team believe a zombie's greatest weapon is its teeth, so they make them a very prominent part on the show. Number 67. Nicotero's team uses busts of zombie heads to create foam latex masks that they eventually glue onto the actors' faces. The masks are painted with blood and gore, and their hair is coated in conditioner to give them a greasy appearance. Number 68. For the final but oh so important detail, contact lenses are given to each zombie. Nicotero says, quote, all their eyes are dead, cloudy, bloodshot, and disgusting. The better their eyes read, then the more effective their look is. Number 69. Remote-controlled zombie puppets are created for the limbless zombies. They're controlled with different cables for both the head and the mouth movement. Number 70. The puppeteers at the K&B shop are responsible for designing, building, and painting the zombies. They're also the same people who operate the puppets on set. Number 71. Nicotero has gone on to write, produce, and direct episodes of The Walking Dead in future seasons. Number 72. Nicotero has also had 2 cameos as a walker throughout the first season. He cast himself as the walker who bites Amy in episode 4 because that scene required a degree of finesse that only he could trust himself to do. Number 73. There are many other Walker cameos throughout the series as well, including Dexter actor Sam Witwer, former Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver Hines Ward, and executive producer Gail Ann Hurd's daughter. Mad Men actors John Hamm and Christina Hendricks also expressed interest in being walkers at one point, but sadly, that didn't happen. Know who wasn't down with a cameo? Kirkman. He refused to feature himself on the show because he's annoyed when people, quote, cameo in their own things. Number 74. The entire first season was written and shot over 6 months in 2010, and the pilot aired on Halloween later that year. It garnered 5.3 million viewers, the most watched series premiere ever for AMC up to that point. Number 75. The Walking Dead was renewed for a second season on November 8th, 2010, a little over a week after its premiere. Number 76. Known to many as Bicycle Girl Zombie, the first animate walker that Rick sees in the pilot after leaving the hospital is named Hannah. Number 77. The horse that Rick rides in the pilot is the exact same one that George Romero uses in Survival of the Dead. His name is Blade. Number 78. While shooting the scene where Rick rides off on the horse, Andrew Lincoln's hat actually blew off. They loved the shot, but didn't want to lose such an important accessory, so the effects team decided to use CGI to replace it. Number 79. Laurie Holden was cast as Andrea. X-Files fans will know her as Marita Covarrubias. Number 80. Another X-Files connection. Dale smokes Morley cigarettes, a fictional brand of cigarettes also smoked by the cigarette smoking man. Number 81. 6 continuous blocks were used for filming the street-level scenes in Atlanta. Production designer Greg Melton said the set was so large that they had trouble finding where they parked their helicopter. I know I forget where I parked my helicopter all the time. Number 82. Speaking of that helicopter, it has the same markings as General Custer's 7th Cavalry, which General Custer led into a crushing defeat at the Battle of Little Bighorn. Number 83. Another Easter egg from the pilot. The blood splatter on Rick's shirt after he beats a zombie with a baseball bat resembles a smiley face. Number 84. In the second episode, Guts, Rick finds a grenade in the tank that he's taking shelter in, which in theory could have probably come in handy at some point. However, the blue handle spoon on the grenade means it's a dummy and only used for training. Good thing Glenn ends up saving him. Number 85. Episode 4, titled Vatos, was written by Walking Dead creator himself, Robert Kirkman. Number 86. The name of the episode references the gang that the group runs into in the nursing home called Los Vatos. Vato is a Chicano slang word equivalent to dude. Number 87. When Jim is bitten in episode 5, Wildfire, he's put in a camper with an upside-down American flag hanging on the wall. That's an official signal of distress according to Title 36 of the Flag Code, and it's only supposed to be used in instances of extreme danger to life or property. Yup, a flag code actually exists.
Now I know!
And knowing is half the battle.
Number 88. Dr. Edwin Jenner, who debuts in episode 5, was named after Dr. Edward Jenner, the father of immunology and developer of the first smallpox vaccine. FYI, the smallpox virus is still stored at the Center for Disease Control facility to this day. Number 89. Despite what we see in episode 6, TS-19, the CDC is not armed to explode in the event of a power outage, and laboratory immolation isn't their preferred method of disinfection either. Regular bleach does the trick just fine. Number 90. The CDC on the show is actually the Cobb Energy Performing Arts Center. For the record, the CDC plotline didn't happen in the comic books, just the TV show. Number 91. However, the CDC does have instructions on their website for how to prepare for a zombie apocalypse. The document is in comic book form, implying that the CDC and the show have a close relationship. Number 92. Apparently, the zombie extras, still in makeup, were asked to eat separately from the human cast on set to help emphasize the separation. Number 93. Darabont ended the season with much left to be discovered, but careful to make the show feel like a self-contained miniseries. Kirkman says that if he knew the show was going to be picked up, he would have killed more characters. Number 94. Darabont only directed the first episode of the show. After that, he just stuck to being a writer and showrunner, letting other people direct the rest of the series. That's what we call in the biz, Lucasing it. Number 95. Darabont planned to create a spin-off series expanding upon the fall of Atlanta and the backstory of the Walker and the Tank. However, Darabont's dream was never realized because of his termination as director during the filming of season 2. Number 96. Darabont was kicked off the show allegedly due to budget disputes with higher-ups at AMC. He says he hasn't watched an episode of the show past season 1. Look, I get it, Frank, but you're kind of missing out. Number 97. The season 1 finale had 6 million viewers, breaking cable records and making it the most watched cable drama in history at that point. Number 98. Kirkman credits the 2002 film 28 Days Later as what broke the barrier for zombies into mainstream entertainment. That's modest of you, Mr. Kirkman. Number 99. The Walking Dead was nominated for 3 Emmys in 2011 and 1 for Outstanding Prosthetic Makeup for a series, miniseries, movie, or special. Number 100. The show was also nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Television Drama in 2011. It lost to Boardwalk Empire. Number 101. The Walking Dead got serious love from the Saturn Awards, though, which recognize achievements in sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. The show was nominated for 6 awards, and it won for Best Presentation on Television. Number 102. Kirkman was eventually sued by Moore, the same childhood friend who helped him co-create the first 6 issues of the comics. Moore claimed to be entitled to as much as half the proceeds from the entire franchise, and the two reached an amicable agreement in September 2012. Number 103. Kirkman owns a pet skunk named Millie, who is deglanded and declawed. Number 104. The construction trucks early in the series were called French Builders. French is Frank Darabont's real first name. Number 105. Season 1 is currently boasting a 92% critic score and a 91% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Number 106. The video game Dead Island contains a Walking Dead Season 1 Easter egg. In an abandoned house in Moresby, the message, "Don't open, dead inside," is scrawled onto a wall. This references the sign Rick sees in the hospital when he wakes up. Number 107. Sure, everyone loves The Walking Dead, but know what Kirkman loves? Rick and Morty. Kirkman loves it so much that creators Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland invited him to do a guest commentary track on the episode Rick Minutes, along with Fillmore creator and eventual Walking Dead showrunner Scott Gimple. In the commentary, Kirkman admitted the episode made him cry. Same here, man.
Next up, we've got facts from the second season. I bet you didn't see that one coming. We went on a bit of a Walking Dead kick back in 2016, so sue us. A week after Season 1, we dropped 107 The Walking Dead Season 2 facts that you should know. Enjoy.
Last week on Cinematica, we took a deep dive into the 6 episodes that started it all, The Walking Dead Season 1. We heard how it broke ratings records and won over critics and audiences alike. But what would that mean for Season 2? Especially after Frank Darabont's shocking exit. Think you know the whole story? Think again. I'm Alyssa with Cinematica, and we're here to give you the inside scoop on how the cast and crew behind The Walking Dead followed up their epic first season with a radical change in direction, and even more shocking twists and turns for our beloved survivors. So get ready, because Cinematica is counting down the 107 facts you should know about The Walking Dead Season 2. Let's get started. Number 1. Season 2 technically had 2 separate showrunners. The original showrunner, Frank Darabont, parted ways with the show during production, and Glenn Mazzara took over after his departure. Number 2. Mazzara had been a writer and producer for The Shield and Crash, the television series, before Darabont tapped him as executive producer and his number 2 for the second season of The Walking Dead. Number 3. Mazzara wrote Wildfire, the 5th episode of Season 1. He also wrote 4 of the second season's 13 episodes: Bloodletting, 18 Miles Out, Better Angels, and Beside the Dying Fire. Number 4. When Darabont was still showrunner, it was rumored that he would be pulling Stephen King to guest write an episode. After he exited, however, it never happened. Number 5. Darabont also asked Edgar Wright, the writer-director of Shaun of the Dead, to direct an episode. Wright declined, saying that the show was something, quote, you want to be in on the ground floor, end quote, whatever that means. Number 6. Ernest Dickerson, who directed 4 episodes this season, considers the show to be a modern-day Western. He was influenced by old Westerns as well, like The Searchers and The Wild Bunch. Number 7. There's new blood going into this season. No, really, there's new blood. Special makeup artist Greg Nicotero darkened the blood they used after season 1's blood came out too bright in color correction. Number 8. On the set, the special effects team would often come up with visuals so disgusting that they were positive they would never make it to air. Well, they totally did. Thanks for the nightmares, guys. Number 9. For scenes where he needs to be sad or cry, Chandler Riggs would think of his dog dying. Fortunately, he's now learned to cry on command, so we don't all have to imagine his dog dying too. Number 10. A 6-part web series directed by Nicotero called Torn Apart launched on AMC's website on October 3rd, 2011, right before the premiere of the 2nd season. It tells the background of Hannah, the bicycle girl from season 1. Number 11. Season 2 takes place just 1 day after season 1 in the Walking Dead timeline, though it aired about 11 months later. Number 12. Nicotero wanted the passage of time to show in the zombies, so one way he did that was by using new yellow contact lenses to make the eyes look like they've cataracted into rotten eggs. Yuck. Number 13. Norman Reedus and Melissa McBride were both promoted from reoccurring cast to the main cast in the 2nd season. Number 14. Rumor has it that Robert Kirkman wanted Charlie Sheen to join the cast. Cue the 2.5 Men jokes in 3, 2, 1. Number 15. Due to budget cuts, this season was forced to do twice the episodes with less money, which might explain the slower, more static pace of season 2. Hey, action is expensive. Number 16. The season premiere, What Lies Ahead, was co-written by Ardith Bay. Ardith Bay isn't a person, by the way. It's a pseudonym for Frank Darabont. Number 17. The premiere was extended to 90 minutes because it contained 16 minutes of cannibalized footage from a scrapped first episode, which would have been titled Miles Behind Us. Number 18. There was a massive heat wave on the first day of shooting on the highway, so the actors were actually cooler hiding under the cars than standing in the sun. Number 19. The director opted to use, quote, soccer mom cars and redneck trucks, end quote, for the highway scene, since normal cars are too low for people to comfortably crawl beneath. Number 20. The highway used in the herd sequence was shot on Route 20 in Georgia. It's the same one used in fellow zombie movie Zombieland. Number 21. The corpse that Daryl finds in the tent has a button on its chest that reads, "No excuse for domestic violence." Number 22. Madison Lintz, who plays Sophia, was afraid of the walkers on set until she actually spoke to one. See, never judge a zombie by its cover. Number 23. The walker extra that Laurie Holden stabs in the head with a screwdriver was actually quite sweet and told her that he'd seen all of her work, which made it really hard for her to kill him. Number 24. Holden dislocated 4 ribs while filming the scene in the RV from the premiere. Number 25. What Lies Ahead is the first appearance of a full-on zombie herd. Prior to now, they'd only appear in smaller clusters. The herd is real, people, and it is terrifying. Number 26. One of the cut segments of the premiere saw Rick and the gang going back to the nursing home seen in Vatos to find out that it had now been overrun by walkers. Aw. Number 27. The Walking Dead's companion after show, Talking Dead, first aired on October 16, 2011, after the premiere of this season. Hosted by Chris Hardwick, it has continued alongside the show ever since. Number 28. The show was renewed for a 3rd season on October 25, 2011, after its heavily watched premiere. Number 29. The AMC worlds of The Walking Dead and Breaking Bad might be one and the same. Remember during the 1st season when Glenn steals the same Dodge Challenger that Walt purchases for Walt Jr. in Breaking Bad? Well, in the 2nd episode of Season 2, Bloodletting, Daryl holds up a bag of his brother's drug stash, and it contains blue meth. Number 30. Andrew Lincoln and Lenny James, who plays Morgan, aren't the only actors on set turning their British accent into a southern drawl. Lauren Cohen, who joined the cast as Maggie in season 2, is a Brit as well. Number 31. Before being cast, Cohen had appeared on The Vampire Diaries and Chuck, and also voiced Juliana on Archer. Number 32. T-Dog finally reveals his real name in Bloodletting, and it's Theodore Douglas. Number 33. To keep bugs away while on set, the cast and crew used peppermint soap. Take note, aspiring survivalists and people without screens on their windows. Number 34. According to Jon Bernthal, the 22 that hangs around Shane's neck is Shane's old football number. Number 35. No special effects were needed for the legless gym walker. That's a real-life double amputee. Number 36. The walker dangling in the tree was really a stuntman in full-body harness. However, he couldn't hang for more than 5 minutes or he'd risk losing circulation. Number 37. The poem written by the hanging man was inspired by messages found in New Orleans post-Hurricane Katrina. Number 38. The school used in the 3rd episode, Save the Last One, is Noonan High School in Noonan, Georgia. The school's N has been replaced with a C, which could stand for Cranwell High School, Maggie's alma mater, as seen in a deleted scene. Number 39. 3 episodes in, Otis is the first human to die on screen this season. Pour one out for Otis. Number 40. Shane isn't a bad guy, at least not according to Bernthal. In developing Shane for this extended lifespan, he and Darabont collaborated to make the character's motives more complex. Number 41. Ever notice that Shane rubs his head a lot? According to Bernthal, that's on purpose. It's a mannerism he gave Shane to show when he's anxious or irritated. Number 42. Bernthal wasn't a fan of his shaved head, though, and joked about growing it back using chia pet juice. Number 43. The farmhouse that Daryl finds in the 4th episode, Cherokee Rose, is near Griffin, Georgia, which was the home of Doc Holliday, the famous gunslinging dentist. He and Daryl probably would have gotten along great. Number 44. Rick originally had a line, "just a uniform." They don't mean anything now. That was written out while filming. They instead chose to convey it with his facial expression. Number 45. Daryl and Carol's intimate Cherokee Rose scene wasn't so intimate in real life. Robert Kirkman and most of the actors were on set to watch the scene as McBride and Reedus acted it out. Number 46. The Cherokee Rose also happens to be the state flower of Georgia, where The Walking Dead is filmed and set. Number 47. The well on Herschel's farm isn't real. The segments shot inside of it were actually filmed on a separate soundstage and combined later during post-production. Number 48. Stephen Yeun actually threw up during one take of the well zombie scene because he was so grossed out by it. Us too, Stephen. Number 49. Chupacabra, the 5th episode of the season, is actually the first time Daryl and Merle appear on screen together. Granted, Merle is a hallucination, but the two never shared screen time in season 1 before they handcuffed and abandoned Merle on that rooftop. Number 50. Holden received death threats after the scene where Andrea accidentally shoots Daryl. She and Reedus had to take a photo together to show that there were no hard feelings. The Walking Dead isn't real life, people. Number 51. Reedus has really gotten into character, so much so that offset he was inspired to buy himself a 1979 F1 Ford truck. Number 52. According to Kirkman, the neighborhood that Shane and Andrea go to in secrets, the 6th episode, is Wiltshire Estates. Wiltshire Estates is a location from the comics that never quite made it into the show adaptation, so this was a nod to those fans. Number 53. Darabont didn't want to include the scene in which Lori admits her affair with Shane to Rick. However, when he stepped down, Mazzara decided to put the scene in. He liked it because the dialogue is so minimal in an otherwise speech-heavy show. Number 54. The verse that Maggie quotes in Pretty Much Dead Already, the mid-season finale, is, quote, "A new command I give to you. Love one another, as I have loved you," end quote. It's 1334 from the Book of St. John. Number 55. Minus Herschel's relatives, Arnold and Sean, the barn has a total of 13 walkers stashed in it. That's a farmer's dozen. Number 56. The barn massacre from Pretty Much Dead Already was referred to in the writer's room as Barnageddon. Number 57. On Talking Dead, it was revealed that the Barnageddon scene was filmed with 2 different versions, one time with Sophia as a walker, and the other looking normal the way the other survivors wanted to see her. Only one ended up being used, though. Number 58. Before Sophia gets lost, Rick tells her to keep the sun over her left shoulder. Ironically, when they find her as a walker, that's exactly where she's been bitten. Number 59. Kirkman has explained that Otis was the one who put Sophia in the barn, but because of everything transpiring with Carl, he never got the chance to mention it. Then Shane killed him. Number 60. Tony Gowell, who was cast as one of the walkers in the barn, claims that his character was meant to be Arnold Green, Herschel's son in the comics. Number 61. After the first 7 episodes aired, the show went on hiatus until February 12th, then returned with the remaining episodes, a practice they continue to this day. Number 62. According to Mazzara, the bar scene in Nebraska, the mid-season premiere, was inspired by the opening sequence of Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Basterds. The writers wanted it to be an engrossing conversation that still keeps you on the edge of your seat. Mission accomplished. Number 63. Dave recalls a refugee camp near Washington, D.C. that's blocked by walkers. He could be referring to the Alexandria Safe Zone, which is near D.C., and the wall of walkers that Abraham's crew encounters in Season 5's Self-Help. Number 64. Dave is the first living character to be killed by Rick in the TV series, which also makes Rick and Shane the only humans to kill other humans this season. Number 65. When casting Terriers and True Blood veteran Michael Raymond James as Dave and Aaron Munez as Tony, the production was trying to make it seem like they would become new series regulars, in order to make their deaths more surprising. Number 66. In a deleted scene, Maggie finds out that Randall actually went to the same high school as her, Cranwell, and she just never noticed him before. Number 67. In the 9th episode, Triggerfinger, there is a portrait of Scott Wilson's mother as a younger girl in the farmhouse. Wilson joined the cast this season as Herschel. Number 68. While many of the locations on the show are the names of real places, Mert County, you know, the place in 18 Miles Out, that's 18 miles out, is made up. Number 69. In Judge, Jury, Executioner, the 11th episode of the season, Shane ends up leading Randall to his death. Originally, a scene was shot in the barn in which Daryl confronts Randall to kill him himself before being distracted by Dale's cries for help. Number 70. The scene where Herschel gives Glenn his grandfather's pocket watch is a favorite of Kirkman's. Number 71. In the original script for Judge, Jury, Executioner, Dale found Jimmy, Beth's boyfriend, remember him, being attacked by walkers rather than the cow that they ended up shooting in the final version. Number 72. Dale died because Shane lived. According to Kirkman, if Shane had died in the show when he had in the comics, then Dale would not have become the voice of reason against him, and he never would have died as a result. Number 73. In actuality, the reason Dale was killed was because Darabont exited the show, and Jeffrey DeMunn, a frequent collaborator of Darabont's, requested that his contract be terminated. He had a change of heart filming his death scene, but it was too late. Number 74. Now's a good time for a What Did They Change speed round. In the comics, Sophia never actually gets lost, and therefore hasn't ended up dying yet. Can we blame Shane for this somehow too? We're gonna blame Shane for this too. Number 75. In the show, Herschel's children are Maggie and Beth, and Sean is his stepson. In the comics, Herschel's children are Maggie, Billy, Lacey, Arnold, Susie, Rachel, and Sean. No Beth. Number 76. In the comics, Otis is depicted as a thinner, hairier man and actually doesn't die, at least not until later in the prison. It's Walking Dead. Everyone dies at some point. Number 77. In the comics, Dale doesn't die either. Well, of course he does, but not when he does in the show. He dies later after having one leg amputated, another eaten by cannibals, then after he's bitten by a walker, Andrea shoots him in the head. What a way to go. Number 78. In the comics, the barn mystery isn't actually a mystery. Herschel outright tells Rick and his gang that he keeps the walkers in there. Number 79. In the comics, Andrea and Shane never have their fling, as Shane has already died. Instead, she begins a relationship with Dale, which marks the first time I'm glad Dale died, because that would have been gross. Number 80. In the comics, Randall doesn't actually exist. Rick and his crew leave the farm after the incident at the barn, so none of the events with Randall ever happen. Number 81. Now on to Better Angels, the penultimate episode of the second season. The episode title was based on President Abraham Lincoln's inaugural address of 1861. In it, Lincoln uses the phrase, "by the better angels of our nature," something Dale believed in. Number 82. Rick recommends bringing Randall out to Sonoya. In reality, the town of Sonoya would be used next season as Woodbury. Number 83. According to Kirkman, Shane's death was originally intended for season 1 until they found out that they were only getting 6 episodes. Once they were renewed, it was immediately decided that Shane would be dead by the end of it. Number 84. The producers actually considered not killing off Shane at the end, but Mazzara decided it was important for Rick to step forward and assume leadership of the group by ending his conflict with Shane. Number 85. AMC accidentally leaked Shane's death ahead of time in the description for the season 2 Blu-ray set on their TV store, referencing Shane's last episode. Number 86. Randall is the first character we see reanimate without having been bitten by a walker. The same thing happens to Shane, foreshadowing the secret Rick learned from the CDC. Number 87. Bernthal tried to convince Nicotero to be the one walker with a speaking role, saying Rick's name, but Nicotero shut that down in the blink of a rotten egg eye. Number 88. Despite having been killed off, DeMunn flew from his farm in New York to Georgia to surprise Bernthal for his last scene. Most of the cast was present for the filming of that scene as well. Number 89. After being killed off the show, Bernthal came back to set anyway and watched the production for about 2.5 hours, hiding in the woods. You could say it was like Shane was looking down on everyone from heaven, but we're pretty sure that's not where he ended up. Number 90. The final episodes almost had 3 major character deaths. Herschel was going to be killed by Randall as he escaped, but the writers had trouble with the scene. They decided instead to postpone his death and explore the effect that losing his farm would have on him. Number 91. According to Mazzara, there are rules for how quickly someone reanimates. Shane, for instance, turned into a walker faster than other characters such as Amy because he died in the midst of a murderous rage. Supposedly, this stimulated his transformation. Number 92. Because of the cold the night they filmed the finale beside the dying fire, the breath of the walker extras was visible, so it had to be removed during post-production. Number 93. Temperatures during the night shoots sometimes reached 20 degrees, so the wardrobe department gave Snuggies away to the zombie extras to keep their cold, dead flesh cuddly warm. Number 94. For the climactic barn burning scene, the production actually burned down the barn. During one take, the assistant director noticed a beam collapse and sent everyone back to their starting positions, allowing them to get the shot of the actual barn caving in the background. Number 95. Though the hooded figure at the end of the episode is clearly Michonne, it is not Danai Gurira, as she had not been cast yet. Number 96. Michonne first appeared in the 19th issue of the comics. In the show, she is introduced in the 19th episode. Number 97. Ever wonder how they get Michonne's walker pets to look armless? They're wearing green sleeves with their arms tucked behind their backs, which are edited out in post. Number 98. A similar technique was used for the well zombie. He had a blue bodysuit on his lower half that was erased and replaced with gore. Number 99. Andrea wins the award for most zombie kills in Season 2. She leads the pack with 30. Number 100. The walker kill count for the season is well over 160. Number 101. The first and last episodes of the season were both co-written by Robert Kirkman. Number 102. The least watched episode of the season was Secrets, with a little over 6 million viewers. Not too shabby for a low point. Number 103. The finale, Beside the Dying Fire, was the most watched episode of the season with 9 million total viewers. Number 104. This season received a lot of criticism for its underuse of T-Dog. In fact, a supercut was made of all of his lines from the entire season, and it's about 5 minutes. Number 105. Season 2 was nominated for 3 Primetime Creative Arts Emmys and 1 for Outstanding Prosthetic Makeup for the season premiere, What Lies Ahead. Number 106. The show won Best Television Presentation at the Saturn Awards for a second year in a row. Number 107. The prison seen in the final shot of the season is CGI. The actual prison is, well, you'll just have to wait for 107 Facts on Season 3 to find that one out.
Let's continue on here and make our way into Seasons 3 and 4. This is where things got pretty dicey for our characters, and all sorts of huge plot points made their presence known. The Walking Dead has never been a show to pull punches unless we're talking about Daryl and Carol, and we did lose some fan-favorite characters here. But nothing folks couldn't handle, right? Let's make sure of that as we delve into Seasons 3 and 4 with 107 The Walking Dead Seasons 3 and 4 facts that you should know.
Last week on Cinematica, we revisited the sophomore year of the greatest zombie TV show of all time, The Walking Dead Season 2. We heard how they overcame the loss of their fearless leader Frank Darabont and shook up the cast with 2 major character deaths. Makes you wonder how they plan to top all that drama in the coming seasons. Think you know the whole story? Think again. I'm Melissa with Cinematica, and we're here to give you the inside scoop on how the cast and crew move forward in a bigger and bolder way with The Walking Dead Seasons 3 and 4. From new characters to new threats, audiences couldn't imagine what was in store for their beloved survivors. So get ready, because Cinematica is counting down the 107 facts you should know about The Walking Dead Seasons 3 and 4. Let's get started. Number 1. When Season 3 starts, it's been 7 to 8 months since we left off. This was the biggest time skip for the series to date, which avoided showing winter completely. Number 2. Like Season 2, Season 3 had a companion web series entitled Cold Storage. It premiered on October 1st, 2012, ahead of the release of Season 3. Number 3. The Walkers have aged even further. This season, the team used grayer makeup and material to make them look even more decayed and decomposed from the sun. Number 4. Pardon Glenn Mazzara's French. He once pitched a scene for the show that would be set in a French laboratory with subtitles used. However, no one else got on board. Number 5. In the Season 3 premiere Seed, Herschel is bitten by a walker while stepping over it and has to have his leg amputated. In the comics, however, this fate is suffered by Dale instead, as he hadn't died yet. Number 6. Prisons aren't cheap. It costs $1.5 million to convert the interior and exterior of the studio space into a jail with actual working plumbing. Number 7. Walkers made the prison this way. Actually, it was just one Walker, Graham Grace Walker, who also did production design on Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome and House of Wax. Number 8. The lines that Maggie say in Seed to an unconscious Herschel were inspired by showrunner Glenn Mazzara's actual final words to his dying mother. He says that writing the scene was therapeutic. Number 9. When Sarah Wayne Callies and Andrew Lincoln shot the post-campfire scene, Callies improvised a line as Rick walked away. She said, "Good night, love," and Lincoln later said it was the most heartbreaking thing he'd ever heard her say, but the cameras were no longer rolling at the time. She later incorporated it into her death sequence, still directed at Rick despite his absence. Number 10. Being bitten is tiring. In the second episode of Season 3, Sick, Scott Wilson would often fall asleep during the scenes in which Herschel was lying unconscious. Number 11. The prisoners in the show are pretty different from the prisoners seen in the comic. In the comics, it's Axel, Thomas, Andrew, and Dexter. The show swaps Dexter for Andrew and adds Big Tiny as an original character. Also in the comics, they appear to be surviving pretty loftily in the prison, while the show has them struggling more. Number 12. Theodis Crane, who plays Big Tiny, practices martial arts and holds a title in Sanshao, the Chinese form of kickboxing. Maybe you should have busted out some of those skills on Tomas. Number 13. You're gonna need a bigger tank. According to Greg Nicotero, one of the heads in the governor's giant tank is Ben Gardner's from Jaws. Number 14. The governor's wife, seen in his family photo in the episode Walk With Me, is Denise Huth. She's one of the producers of The Walking Dead. Number 15. According to Robert Kirkman, the character of Milton was based on one of the writers who frequently drinks tea. This was later confirmed to be Scott Gimple, season 4's showrunner. Number 16. Dallas Roberts, who played Milton, says he intended to present the character as having Asperger's, and he's been praised for his positive representation. Number 17. T-Dog really did save Carol in season 3's 4th episode, Killer Within. She was originally supposed to die in this episode, but the producers decided to kill off T-Dog instead. Number 18. For the scene in which Rick learns of Lori's death, Lincoln asked Callies not to be on set. However, she says that she could hear him screaming from the trailers and gave him a big hug when the scene was done to remind him that Lori died, not her. Number 19. Lincoln listened to Snow Patrol set fire to the third bar to get in the headspace for the announcement of Lori's death. He warns against listening to it as you, quote, might end up collapsing, end quote. Number 20. Frank Darabont had actually considered sparing Lori despite Callie's attempts to convince him of her death's importance. When Mazzara took over, however, he set it on track and ended up informing Callie's of her demise while on the way to the airport to see his dying mother. Number 21. A family that slays together stays together, even in death. The cast is always present for the taping of each other's death scenes, even the departing actor makes a speech, and everyone then goes out for what they call a death dinner. Number 22. Jose Pablo Cantillo, who plays Caesar, based his zombie pit moves off of his brother. Manny, a capoeira fighter, would protect him back in school. Number 23. There's a Dawn of the Dead cameo in the episode Say the Word, the zombie flyboy. Number 24. The Andrea-Governor relationship never happens in the comics. In those, she's still with Dale, gross, and this also happens to be the second antagonist she slept with in the show, the first being Shane. Girl needs better taste in men. Number 25. Hello from the Other Side? In the comic, Rick's hallucinatory phone calls don't happen in the prison, but instead, it's in a house after they've already left. Also, he somehow isn't able to recognize that the voice is Lori, which I guess is what happens in print media. Number 26. Michael Rooker lost 28 pounds before returning as Merle. And oh yeah, he lost his arm too. Number 27. As horrible as the governor may be, he's worse in the comics. In the show, the governor intimidates Maggie by forcing her to strip halfway down, but abandons his threats when it's clear they're not going anywhere. In the comics, however, it's Michonne that's subject to his assault, and he takes it too far. This explains her resentment for him, which plays in the show more like distrust. Number 28. Jon Bernthal returned as Shane in Made to Suffer, but a little hairier. He had a beard for his role in Wolf of Wall Street and couldn't shave it, so Rick just, hallucinates it onto him. Number 29. Sasha wasn't a character in the comics. Actress Sonequa Martin Green originally auditioned to play Michonne, but lost out to Denai Guerrera. Mazzara liked her so much, however, that they wrote the role just for her. Number 30. The 9th episode of season 3, Suicide King, features a cameo from special makeup artist Greg Nicotero and the on-set animal coordinator Greg Trisson. Because Trisson had less animals to coordinate, he played the Woodbury Man being torn apart by walkers. Nicotero played one of those walkers. Number 31. This was the same episode NFL player Hines Ward also cameoed. As Rick and the gang escape from Woodbury, he can be seen approaching the group and is shot down by Maggie. Number 32. The truck full of zombies that the governor drops into the prison during the episode Home is called a walker bomb, according to Talking Dead and the show's Facebook page. Number 33. Zombies aren't the only problem on set. Some of the scenes, such as the bridge sequence and the attack on the prison, were complicated by Hurricane Isaac. Number 34. Axel's body double wasn't actually a double of actor Lou Temple. It was really a mold of Nicotero. Temple, however, says that he's honored that Nicotero's double doubled for the trouble. Number 35. Nicotero wanted a different ending for the episode I Ain't a Judas. According to him, Andrea would actually have gone through with slitting the governor's throat, proving her loyalty to the prison. Later, it would be revealed that the murder attempt failed, though he thinks it would have agreed better with her character. Number 36. Morgan makes his return in Clear, the 12th episode of season 3, after being absent since the series premiere. But apparently, the producers intended him to appear appear sooner in the second season, but actor Lenny James was busy and unable to make it back in time. Number 37. Jamie N. Cummins' Lead Me Home, Heard and Clear, was written just for the show. He sent it to the producers after having binge-watched the other seasons and based the song itself off the feel of the show. Number 38. The original title of the episode, Arrow on the Doorpost, was Pale Horse, named after a scene in which Daryl finds a headless horseman riding on a still-living horse. Number 39. The current title, Arrow on the Doorpost, may be an allusion to the Native American practice of planting a tomahawk or arrow into the doorpost during the beginning of a conflict, and not removing it until the conflict is resolved. This certainly fits the theme of the episode. Number 40. According to Mazzara, the original title of Prey was Killer Within Part 2. Number 41. Travis Love, who plays the governor's crony Shumpert, also played a thug in Vatos in the Season 1 episode of the same name. However, it is unclear if they are the same character. Number 42. In a cut plotline from This Sorrowful Life, the penultimate episode of Season 3, Andrea and Milton attempted an assassination of the governor by planting a bomb in his house. However, this didn't feel tonally right for the show, so the sequence was scrapped. Merle's death filled the void left by this plotline. Number 43. Merle's last words, "I'm not begging you," weren't to the governor. According to Rooker, they were directed towards God. Number 44. Dying was scary for Dallas Roberts. He actually had a phobia of contact lenses, so putting them in freaked him out. Number 45. Andrea's fate was originally much different. According to Holden, she was set up to become the new leader of Woodbury, but this was changed just weeks before the episode entered production. Seemingly, it was the decision of Mazzara and nobody else to kill her off for shock value. Supposedly, this is why he lost his job as showrunner, but we'll get to that later. Number 46. Andrea's death scene had two versions. The first time they shot it, Tyrese and Sasha find her bitten and give her the gun to kill herself. However, it was deemed that Rick, Daryl, and Michonne, her actual friends, should be the ones to find her and give her death more weight, so everyone was called back to pick up the new sequence. Number 47. Additional war footage was filmed inside the tombs of the prison, in which some of the extras seen in Woodbury are killed by Rick's group. However, it was cut from the episode. Number 48. Sudden death. Many of the characters' deaths this season, including Andrea, as we mentioned, Axel, and Merle, were all last-minute decisions and not originally planned out. Number 49. The show is really lending Rick a hand. In the comics, the governor actually captured him and cut it off. Kirkman, however, says that he regrets doing that and that having it happen in the show would lead to all kinds of inconveniences. Number 50. The least viewed episode of Season 3 was Hounded. Number 51. The most viewed episode of Season 3 was the finale, Welcome to the Tombs. Number 52. The Season 3 body count? Approximately 403. Oh boy. Number 53. The biggest walker killer of the season was Rick with 44. However, the governor was the biggest human killer with 31. Number 54. The episodes Made to Suffer and This Sorrowful Life both shared names with volumes of the Walking Dead comics. However, they pop up in a different order. Number 55. Going into Season 4, the showrunner changed again. Surprise, surprise. This time, Scott Gimple took over for Glenn Mazzara, who was dismissed for creative reasons. Number 56. Gimple had previously written on a variety of shows, including American Dragon Jake Long, Flash Forward, and episodes of The Walking Dead, such as Clear and Pretty Much Dead Already. Number 57. Season 4 continued the seasonal tradition of having a companion web series. This time, it was called The Oath, airing a few weeks prior to the season premiere. Number 58. The farm in the prison courtyard is real. In fact, the cast and crew frequently ate from it. Number 59. Due to rain in Georgia around the time of production, one of the locations for the first episode, 30 Days Without an Accident, was flooded. The set was already prepared, and a lot of it ended up floating away. They had to find a new location last minute. Number 60. In one scene during 30 Days Without an Accident, Herschel's prosthetic leg can be seen poking out, so Wilson had to bury his real leg in the ground up to the knee to conceal it. Number 61. The show gives a shout out to Telltale's Walking Dead games. When Michonne is looking at her map, tracking the governor, she notes Macon, a significant setting of the games. Kirkman says that this is an allusion to that series. Number 62. The prison piglets were named Bandit, Truffle, Pork, Chop, and Chaps. They would often poop on Andrew Lincoln when he held them. Number 63. There was supposed to be a moat around the prison this season, but during the construction of it, they hit quicksand and were forced to stop. Number 64. Michonne's not just a samurai, she's a cowboy. Carrera picked out her own horse, Chase, and did all of her own stunts. She should be on Deadliest Warrior. Number 65. 95. The mega horde of zombies in Season 4 episode Isolation was bigger than any that had been on the show before. It consisted of about 100 practical zombie extras, with CGI zombies filling in the rest. Number 66. Recognize Sam? That's Robin Lord Taylor, who would later star as the Penguin in another comic book-based show, Gotham. Number 67. Laurie Holden and Melissa Ponzio, who played Tyrese's now charred girlfriend Karen, had invented a backstory for the character in which she was a teacher at Woodbury, which is why she was so concerned about the kids being in the Woodbury Army. Number 68. The episode Live Bait is actually based on the Rise of the Governor novel, as opposed to the comics like the rest of the show. Elements like the Chalmers family, or the governor changing his name, are allusions to that novel. Number 69. The original title of Live Bait was Rise, as in Rise of the Governor, the novel that the episodes are largely inspired by. Number 70. Governor or Pirate. In one shot, the disheveled governor was placed in front of this parrot pillow so that he'd resemble a pirate. Number 71. The governor Philip picks up the new name Brian. In the novel, the governor's real name is Brian, but he picks up the name Philip, who was his older brother. Number 72. Lily Chalmers is based off of Lily Call, a character from the comics, and April Chalmers from the novels. Unlike Lily Chalmers, Lily Call doesn't die and now heads up Woodbury in her own novel. Number 73. Wilson isn't losing his head over leaving the show. Nicotera gave him a duplicate of the decapitated one used on set, which Wilson keeps in a bag in his closet. Number 74. The death of Herschel was a really suspenseful day on set. According to Wilson, the cast and crew all wore suspenders to honor the fallen farmer. Number 75. How do you know too many people have died? Well, according to David Morrissey, the death dinners that the actors throw after a character's demise had to be moved from restaurants and bars to private houses because people saw them and began to realize that someone had died. Number 76. Ernest Dickerson is out for Herschel's blood. He directed Wilson's first episode, then the season 4 premiere where his leg is amputated, and now the episode in which he's decapitated Too Far Gone. Wilson claims they're good friends, but Number 77. When Carl is tying the wire around the door in the episode after, he was originally supposed to tell Rick that Dale taught him how to do it. However, the line was changed to say that Shane taught him to increase the tension between the father and son in this episode. Number 78. During the taping of Michonne's Forest Walker battle, Nicotero, who was directing, didn't call cut, but Guerrera continued slashing along, executing about 10 unscripted, unchoreographed zombie kills. Number 79. Rick's line at the end of the episode after, "It's for you," is one of Andrew Lincoln's favorites. In fact, he signed it for a fan prior to the release of the episode when asked to write his favorite line. When the fan asked what episode it was from, Lincoln said to wait and see. Number 80. Jack Goodman from American Werewolf in London cameos in After. He can be seen as one of the walkers tailing Michonne. Number 81. Life imitating art, Abraham, Eugene, and Rosita's appearance at the end of the episode mirrors their poses from the cover of issue 53 of the comic. Number 82. The backpack that Glenn uses to pack supplies and inmates is the same one that Rick, Michonne, and Carl got from the hitchhiker in Clear last season. Number 83. Lincoln jumped down from the roof himself without a stunt double. The scarier part, though, was Norman Reedus was mooning him from below. Number 84. The drug dealer described by Daryl, a janky little white guy who pulled out a gun and says, "I'm gonna kill you, bitch," is widely considered to be a homage to the Breaking Bad character Jesse Pinkman. Number 85. The portraits of the former club presidents in still are actual headshots of people from the crew. Number 86. In the funeral parlor, Beth sings the song "Be Good" by Waxahachie. Actress Emily Kinney later featured a recording of the song on her EP, Expired Love. Number 87. According to Sonequa Martin Green, Sasha was a firefighter before the zombie outbreak. Number 88. According to Gimple, Lizzie and Micah were supposed to be differently gendered twins, with Micah being a boy named Mike. However, upon seeing Kyla Kennedy's audition, they canned that and cast her to be Micah. Number 89. The deaths of Lizzie and Micah are adapted from a similar plotline in the comics involving Ben, Billy, and Carl. Carl kills Ben after he murders Billy, just as Carol kills Lizzie for murdering Micah. Number 90. The puzzle that Carol and Tyrese are working on in the episode The Grove is actually a photo of Sophia from season 2. Number 91. The Grove marks the longest consecutive absence of Rick. 3 episodes. Nicotero has said that this was intentional to show how divided the group is. Number 92. Brighton Charbino and Kyla Kennedy, who played Micah and Lizzie, released a song called Begin Again that was based on the events of this episode. Number 93. The penultimate episode of season 4, Us, was shot during Halloween, so the cast and crew dressed up on set for the holiday. Number 94. It's the day of the Walking Dead. Bub from Day of the Dead makes a cameo in the tunnel during Us. Glenn shines a light on him in the Horde. Number 95. David S. Goyer of Dark Knight Trilogy trilogy fame, was supposed to direct Us, but had to drop out due to scheduling conflicts. Nick Cotero took over the episode. Number 96. The Terminus sequence in the season 4 finale, A, is foreshadowed by Farmer Rick. Earlier in the episode, he teaches Carl that a snare traps animals by leading them down a path, just as the termites lead them to the boxcar with their gunfire. He also instructed Carl not to name the pigs. Notice how Gareth doesn't call Rick and the gang by their names. Number 97. The flashback scenes were shot at the very end of production as the actor's hair had to be cut shorter so it would match the time period. Number 98. The actual shooting location of Terminus is close to Atlanta. The skyline and notable landmarks had to be digitally removed from certain shots as to conceal this. Number 99. According to Lincoln, the filmed encounter with the Claimers was more graphic than the one that aired and was directed as such. This, he says, explains the desperation of ripping out Joe's throat. Number 100. The Walking Dead is always brutal, but Lincoln was particularly concerned about Rick's brutality in dispatching the Claimers. In fact, he called Gimple to question whether or not the scene was taking it too far. That is saying something. Number 101. Tastes like chicken. For the scene in A in which Rick tears into Joe's throat, Andrew Lincoln was offered a choice of beef or chicken. He went with the chicken, which was inserted into a prosthetic on the actor's neck and then torn out raw. Lincoln says he doesn't remember much of what happened after they called action. Number 102. In the comics, Rick famously delivers the line, "They're f***ing with the wrong people." The show, of course, was unable to say that due to profanity regulations, so on the show, it was changed to screwing. However, an alternate version of the scene was filmed in which Lincoln delivered the original version of the line. Number 103. The cult-looking room in Terminus, with names scrawled out on the ground, is called the Church, and is a memorial to all the people the termites have lost. It was, at one point, speculated that this room was dedicated to their victims, assumed by the clear keepsakes on the floor, similar to those taken from Glenn's group. Number 104. The least viewed episode of Season 4 was Part 2 of the Governor episode's Dead Weight. Number 105. The most viewed episode of Season 4 was 30 Days Without an Accident, the season premiere. This is the first time a season premiere beat out a season finale in ratings. Number 106. Daryl took the spot of top walker killer this season with a grand total of 47 on-screen kills. Number 107. The season 4 body count, approximately 432. Yikes.
No, we're not gonna skip any seasons. We've got more facts in the chamber, don't you worry. The next one is 107 The Walking Dead Season 5 Facts You Should Know, released only a few weeks after the first one.
Last week on Cinematica, we revisited seasons 3 and 4 of the greatest zombie TV show of all time, The Walking Dead. We heard how they upped the action and gore and doubled down on the scariest threat yet for our survivors, other people. But what would it all mean for season 5? Think you know the whole story? Think again. I'm Alyssa with Cinematica, and we're here to give you the inside scoop on how the cast and crew went even darker and more intense with The Walking Dead Season 5. From Terminus to Alexandria, our beloved survivors covered a lot of ground this season and paid the price along the way. So get ready, because Cinematica is counting down the 107 facts you should know about The Walking Dead Season 5. Let's get started. Number 1. This season, showrunner Scott Gimple was replaced by... Oh, he wasn't! Well, that's refreshing. As showrunner this season, he abided more than ever by a policy of remixing the source material. That meant staying very close to the comics, hitting many of the major plot points, but often in different ways. Number 2. Special effects makeup designer Greg Nicotero has also brought some changes to this season. Now, a year and a half into the apocalypse, the zombies will be showing more bone and will be a little less attached to all that skin. Number 3. Speaking of decay, have you noticed that the show's logo has been decaying since season 1? This GIF from Skybound Entertainment shows the progression, or unprogression, if you will. Number 4. Season 5 takes place over 36 days, with about half of those occurring off-screen between the two halves. Number 5. The first episode of the season, No Sanctuary, was the highest viewed episode of the series up to that point, with over 17 million viewers. It also made it the highest viewed cable program of all time. Number 6. Prior to being cast as Gareth, actor Andrew J. West made appearances on shows like Castle, CSI, and Bones, and had a larger role on the series Greek. Number 7. Remember Sam, played by Robin Lord Taylor? He hasn't appeared since Indifference in season 4, in which he was presumed dead. Well, he's back now, at the troughs, and now he's dead. Aw. Number 8. When Rick's group goes to war, they go to war. The script describes their escape sequence as storming the beach at Normandy, only with less Normandy and more Norman Reedus. Number 9. None of the actors in the trough scene were shown how the throat slitting was going to be done, so their first time seeing the effect was on camera. Their shock is authentic. Nicotero says that this approach was inspired by the iconic chest-bursting scene in Alien, in which none of the actors knew the xenomorph was going to tear out. Number 10. When Martin threatens to break Judith's neck, the hands around her neck are actually those of the baby's father. Never trust a cannibal to strangle a baby. Number 11. Morgan's post-credit scenes do not take place during the episodes they are attached to. The character's return this episode, his first since Clear, is actually months after the escape scene in the episode itself. Number 12. Creator Robert Kirkman revealed that Gareth would be based on a character from the comics, though didn't specify who. That character is Chris, the leader of the Hunters, which are the inspiration for the termites. He and Gareth have similar character arcs, dialogue, and wardrobes. Number 13. The Crate from the George Romero Creepshow segment, The Crate, makes a cameo in this episode. Another example of Walking Dead honoring its zombie heritage. Number 14. The near-end scene in which Rick and Judith are reunited was shot in several different improvised ways. The version that stuck had Rick calling over Tyrese and Sasha, who were not originally in that shot. According to Andrew Lincoln, Rick realized that Tyrese had saved her. Number 15. At the end of season 4, Gimple left a secret note to Lincoln in the dirt where Rick buried his guns. However, a different spot was used for the guns in season 5, so the note was never found. Maybe it's still out there right now. Number 16. Watch the watches this season. The time on them matches the production number of the episode. The watch in the premiere episode, for instance, reads 5:01. Number 17. In the second episode, Strangers, several Bible quotes can be seen in Gabriel's church. Many of those verses refer to the dead coming back to life. Number 18. The zombified water in the basement of the food bank was made possible using finger paint and was then filled with cork to represent various zombie excrements. So, please don't drink that. Number 19. Sneakwell Martin Green's liquid zombie kill at the food bank turned out so brutal that the camera operators actually broke their stoic omniscience and reacted to the gore. Number 20. Seth Gilliam was cast as Father Gabriel Stokes. Gilliam had previously appeared in shows like The Wire, Teen Wolf, and Oz, as well as movies like Still Alice and Starship Troopers. Quite the range on that guy. Number 21. Gilliam is actually the third alumnus from The Wire to be cast in the show. The others are Chad Coleman, who played Tyrese, and Lawrence Gilliard Jr., who played Bob. Number 22. Most things taste like chicken, but not Bob. Bob tastes like pig. Wes says that the Bob they ate was made of some type of pork that was tasty enough to make his insane final line accurate. Number 23. Bob's tainted meat line from Four Walls and Roof mirrors a line from the comic series. In the graphic novel, long dead in the show Dale actually suffers the cannibalization rather than Bob, though the scene in the show was intentionally shot to allude to that sequence. Number 24. West is the shortest-lived series regular on the show. He only appears in 4 episodes, and only 3 of those feature him in a leading role. It's possible that this was done to deceive the audience of his importance or lack thereof. Number 25. The name of episode 4, Slabtown, comes from an old red light district in Atlanta where many men committed heinous acts before it was overrun by disgusted Atlantans. Grady Hospital is destined to suffer the same fate. Number 26. Eric Jensen, who appears as Dr. Edwards in Slabtown, originally auditioned to play Eugene. He's happy to have lost out on it though, as he doesn't think he could pull off the mullet as well as Josh McDermott. Number 27. The clock in Beth's hospital room reads 5:04. Slabtown is episode 5:04. Get it? About time. Zing. Number 28. Grady Memorial Hospital, where Beth is being kept, can actually be seen in the Atlanta skyline back in the season 2 premiere as Rick talks to Morgan. Number 29. Christine Woods was cast as Officer Dawn Lerner. You may know her from her work in Hello Ladies and Flash Forward, or her guest spots in shows like Castle and House. Number 30. Dawn suffers from obsessive-compulsive disorder, which may explain why she runs such a tight ship at the hospital. Number 31. Tyler James Williams, who plays Noah, is probably best known for his leading role on Everybody Hates Chris, though he's also appeared in a hospital before on House, probably under different circumstances. Number 32. The original title of episode 5, Self-Help, was reportedly The Choice. It was seemingly changed before airing for unknown reasons. Number 33. More mysteries surrounding this episode. It was almost banned from airing. According to Michael Cutlitz, it was almost pulled, though he didn't specify why. There doesn't seem to be anything in the episode that's a far cry from Walking Dead's usual excessive blood and gore, but we're guessing it may have been cut. Number 34. Apparently producers like making Cutlitz get naked. He jokes that he has had more nude scenes than any of his peers, and how he was quickly given one on Walking Dead when so few others on the show have had one themselves. Norman hasn't been naked he points out. I'm sure fans of Daryl wouldn't mind that though. Number 35. We know Eugene likes to watch, but apparently Rosita wants him to, and Tara. Christian Serratos wanted Alana Masterson and Josh McDermott on set for hers and Cutlet's sex scene, but they were not allowed because it was a closed set. Number 36. Does Serratos look familiar? She played a reoccurring role throughout the Twilight films as Bella's human high school friend. Number 37. Williams nearly passed out shooting the bookcase scene. He was hyperventilating under the weight of it and stood up too quickly after he was released from beneath it. Who knew bookcases were such a threat in the zombie apocalypse? Number 38. Carol's and Daryl's entrance into Atlanta is identical to Rick's iconic entrance all the way back in season 1. Number 39. While the series has been relatively faithful to the comics, Beth's storyline was pretty much entirely created from scratch. Number 40. Every 7th episode so far has had the word dead in the title. Pretty much dead already, When the Dead Come Knocking, and Dead Weight. The 7th episode of this season, Crossed, was a combo breaker. Number 41. In Crossed, Tara references Band of Brothers, which Cudlitz had appeared in as Sergeant Denver Bull Randleman. Number 42. While filming at the napalmed Atlanta set piece, Reedus took a liking to a spine skull prop. He began to walk around set with it and even pose with it and Lincoln like a magazine cover. Number 43. The title of the mid-season finale, Coda, could mean the concluding passage of a piece of music. Since Beth is known as the musician of the show, it might have been alluding to her upcoming death. Number 44. Rick mirrors the line,
Can't go back, Bob.
as spoken by Gareth earlier this season, to a different Bob.
Go back, Bob.
Gimple says that this was done in an intentional way to cause Rick to reflect on his transformation. Number 45. Lincoln didn't understand why he would tell Bob to shut up after he already killed him, and wouldn't accept because it's cool as a good answer. So according to him, the shut up is actually directed at Gareth, as Rick has now realized the similarities between them. Number 46. In the mid-season finale, the scene where Rick runs down Bob in his car is a direct homage to the way Rick kills Martinez in the comics. Number 47. Beth's death was an extremely emotional moment on set. Lincoln had to turn away from the camera to conceal his tears, while Reedus cried for an hour beforehand so that he would look tearless by the time they shot the scene. Number 48. Ernest Dickerson directed Coda, meaning he oversaw the destruction of the Green Farm, the amputation of Herschel's leg, Herschel's decapitation, and now Beth's death. He must really hate the Green family. Watch out, Maggie. Number 49. There was some controversy following the original airing of the episode on the East Coast. The show's Facebook page immediately uploaded a poster of Daryl carrying Beth with the caption, "Rest in peace, Beth." The episode had not aired in many other places yet, and the backlash was so bad that a formal apology had to be issued by AMC. Number 50. Following that incident, many fans were unhappy with Beth's death in general, so they sent plastic spoons to showrunner Gimple in protest. The spoons allude to a collectible Washington, D.C. spoon found by Beth, which many fans took as a sign of a continued lifespan. Number 51. Perhaps more than any other season, this one radically shifts tone in the second half. According to Lincoln, the two halves of this season can be best encapsulated by two songs by fellow Brits, the Beatles, Helter Skelter and A Day in the Life. Number 52. Noah's home, Shire Wilt Estates, is a reference to Wiltshire Estates, a prominent location in the comics that briefly appeared unnamed in the show during season 2. Number 53. Coleman found out about Tyrese's death 3 episodes before it happened. Kinney says she learned about hers hours before the script came out. Number 54. Coleman and Kinney actually shared a death dinner, as their characters' deaths were so close that no one could bear to go through the whole thing twice. Number 55. Noah's house was built inside of a soundstage to hide all of the cameos in Tyrese's hallucinations. Fortunately, some were easy to arrange, like Kinney, who was still in the state. The only one that people may have caught onto was Morrissey's, as he was spotted at a coffee shop in Georgia, but Nicotero says that people seemed not to look too deeply into it. Number 56. The voice of the radio broadcaster is actually Lincoln, using his natural British accent. Number 57. Grimsdyke, from the British horror film Tales of the Script, makes a cameo in The Forest. Number 58. In the 10th episode of the season, Rick finally says the famous title drop,
That we are the Walking Dead.
In the comics, he did that way back in issue 24 while they were still at the prison. Number 59. Kind of a disappointment then that this was the least viewed episode of the season with only 12 million viewers. How will everyone know that they are the Walking Dead? Number 60. The speech made Lincoln cry though. When he first read it, it reminded him of a moment in his own life in which he delivered a similar speech. Number 61. For the scene in which Daryl eats a worm, Reedus would have really ate it, but animal activists were on site to make sure he spit it back out. All life is sacred on The Walking Dead. Number 62. During the bridge scene, Reedus accidentally knocked off a walker's wig. To fix it in post-production, they had to digitally alter it to be the entire scalp. Number 63. More Reedus trivia. In the original script, before he starts to cry, Daryl was supposed to cut himself with a knife rather than burn himself with a cigarette. Reedus worried that if he used the knife, it may look like he is crying from physical pain rather than the emotional pain. He convinced them to change it to the burn. Number 64. For this episode, the special effects crew had prepared equipment to make artificial rain. However, just as they began shooting the scene, it began to actually rain. Probably the first time anyone ever wanted it to rain on their parade. Number 65. While shooting the scene at the barn door, Reedus actually sliced his arm open and began bleeding, and they caught it on camera. It wasn't used in the final cut of the episode, though. Number 66. Aaron is played by Ross Marquand. Marquand is no stranger to the undead, having appeared in a short called The Deadening, and no stranger to AMC, having appeared in Mad Men. Number 67. Marquand had previously auditioned for Gareth, but the casting directors decided to hold off and cast him as Aaron instead, due to his improv and impression skills. Number 68. Aaron is the first gay male to appear on the show and the third gay character after Tara and Alicia. Number 69. The Distance, the 11th episode of the season, was originally speculated to be called The Sleeping Dens. This may have had some symbolism connected with the upcoming Wolves gang or with Rick's team being animals. Number 70. Eric Raleigh, Aaron's boyfriend, is played by Jordan Woods Robinson. He shares his last name with Raleigh Studios, the production company that houses The Walking Dead in Atlanta. Number 71. Abraham asks Glenn how he knows about the RV's extra battery, to which Glenn just smiles. For the record, he learned it from Dale back in the second season, who showed him on the Winnebago. Number 72. In the episode 12, titled Remember, Carl finds a comic book called Invincible. This is another comic by Kirkman. Number 73. Recognize Caitlin Nakin as Enid? That's because she appears in the infamous Too Many Cooks video. Number 74. How did Carl become the poker god of the apocalypse? Before the cameras were rolling, Josh McDermott showed Chandler Riggs and Tyler James Williams how to play. Riggs picked up on it quickly, then both went all in, and Riggs won. So in the show, Carl is seen dominating the game. Number 75. The Latin phrase on Rick's badge translates to "We will rise again," which is a phrase used by the governor in the season 3 episode Walk With Me. Number 76. Scott Ian of Anthrax cameos as a walker. He previously appeared in a webisode back in 2011, but came back for an appearance on the show and a guest spot on The Talking Dead. That's so metal. Number 77. Deanna Monroe and her husband Reg are actually gender swapped from their comic counterparts. There, she is Douglas Monroe, married to Regina. Number 78. Tova Feldsha plays Deanna Monroe. Some of her notable roles include Lady in the Water, Kissing Jessica Stein, and Law & Order. Walking Dead is new territory. Number 79. Deanna was a congresswoman of Ohio. Feldsha cites Hillary Clinton, as well as other strong congresswomen, as her main influences in her depiction of the character. Number 80. Daryl's line, "You look ridiculous," was improvised by Reedus. Melissa McBride actually had a response, "Thank you," which was not included in the episode. Number 81. Move over, Michael Cudlitz. For his pre-shaved shower scene, Lincoln volunteered to actually be naked on set. Number 82. Bye Bye Beardy. Nick Otero filmed Lincoln shaving off the beard and sent it to Lincoln's wife, who was never a fan of it, as proof that he had really done it. Number 83. Do you miss Rick's beard? Don't worry, Reedus now has it. He also kept Scott Wilson's ponytail. Don't ask us why. Number 84. Lincoln had been sporting Rick's beard for 4 years, so his 4-year-old son had never seen him cleanly shaven before. According to Lincoln, this led to some emotional video chats when he had to convince him that he was the same person. Number 85. Jesse is played by Alexander Breckenridge, who appeared on other hit TV shows like Family Guy, American Horror Story, and True Blood. Walking Dead pretty much has family horror and blood too. Number 86. In Forget, episode 13 of the season, Buttons the horse is attacked by walkers. One of them is actually the animal trainer. Number 87. The photos that Sasha uses for target practice are of crew members for the show. Watch out, guys! Number 88. Daryl's original line to Aaron after he puts down Buttons was written to be more comforting, like reassurance that he did the right thing. On the day, Reedus opted to change the line so that it was a more biting reflection of Daryl himself, instead pointing out that he shouldn't interfere with nature. Number 89. When Michonne hits It's Rick in the 14th episode of the season, Try, Denai Guerrera accidentally hit Lincoln for real. When the cameras cut, she proceeded to dive down and cuddle him back to health. Number 90. The director of episode 15, Spend, is Jennifer Chambers Lynch. She's the daughter of Peggy Lynch and famous director David Lynch. Number 91. For Noah's death scene, a life-size mold of him was used. It was so eerily realistic looking that Williams advised his loved ones not to watch the scene. Number 92. Williams called Noah's death. According to him, as soon as Rick draped a blanket over him in them, he knew he was dead meat. He started spreading the rumor around set, and by the time his death was formally announced, no one was surprised. Number 93. Noah was always living on borrowed time. He was originally signed for just 3 episodes, meaning he would have died around Beth's death. However, they kept him just a little bit longer, just to hurt us a little bit more. Number 94. For his pole fighting scene in the opening of the season finale Conquer, Lenny James was taught by Stephen Ho, who was one of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Cowabunga! Number 95. The constant references to the wolves, as well as the appearance of the man in the red poncho who is killed by them, are allusions to the classic fairy tale Little Red Riding Hood. Number 96. A zombie kill sequence in this episode, shot for shot, mirrors a zombie kill from Dawn of the Dead. Number 97. The night of the finale shoot was a freezing 12 degrees outside, the coldest day in production history. It was so cold that vodka was mixed into the prop zombie blood to prevent it from freezing on set. The blood alcohol content of that must have been so illegal. Number 98. The line, "How many of you do I have to kill to save your lives?" was written by Gimple about 24 hours before it was supposed to be shot. Lincoln adores the line because of how coolly and accurately it reflects Rick's frustration at the people of Alexandria. Number 99. Martin Green was pregnant during production. Various visual techniques and a big gun were generally used to hide her baby bulge, but some shots, like the techno crane shot of her laying on the zombie pile, proved to be harder to manipulate. Number 100. The neighborhood used for Alexandria is Sonoya, right across the train tracks from the neighborhood used for Woodbury. In fact, people on the cast and crew would often go to Woodbury from Alexandria for coffee. Number 101. The fight between Rick and Pete mirrors the event from issue 75 of the graphic novel, which was called Too Far Gone. The show also had an episode with that name, only it was back in season 4, referencing the governor. Number 102. A great deal of secrecy has surrounded all of Lenny James' returns to the show. When he was brought in for Clear, he stayed at a private bed and breakfast away from everyone else. For his post-credit cameos this season, he was flown out for the day, shot all of his scenes, and then wasn't allowed to tell anyone. He says it made him feel like a secret agent. Number 103. Nick Otero thinks that Conquer is the best episode in the series. Not only did he believe that everyone involved should get Emmy recognition, but his devotion to the episode was so great that he pushed for an hour-and-a-half runtime so we wouldn't have to cut out any content. Number 104. The last 5 episode titles of the season, Remember, Forget, Spend, Try, and Conquer, are all verbs in the quote that Dale tells everyone in season 1's Vatos. "I give you a mausoleum of all hope and desire, which will fit your individual needs, no better than it did mine and my father before me. I give it to you not that you may remember time, but that you may forget it for a moment now and then, and not spend all of your breath trying to conquer it." Number 105. According to Gimple, about 6 sets of twins had been used for Judith by the end of season 5, as they all kept getting too big and need to be rotated. Number 106. This season, the award for most walker kills goes to Glenn, with a total of 70. Rick leads on the human count, though, with 10. Number 107. This season is currently boasting a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes, even beating out season 1 as the highest rated season so far.
Folks seem to be on that Walking Dead kick right along with us, as our 5th video in the series scored over 1.2 million views. Nice. Here's the one fans have been waiting for. One of the most famous or infamous scenes in the series takes place in season 6, killing off a beloved character who seemed like he just might live forever. It also introduced a new villain in the most brutal way possible, and this villain would go to change the series at its core. It's time for 107 The Walking Dead Season 6 facts you should know.
Just when we thought our wild heroes could be domesticated behind the walls of Alexandria, the wolves and the saviors step up to the plate and pitch a wrench right into the gears. Luckily for us, that means loads of intricate set pieces, steamy romances, and behind-the-scenes switch-ups to break down. I'm Kyle with Cinematica, and today we're taking a swing at the hit show's most controversial year yet. Here are 107 facts about The Walking Dead Season 6. Batter up. Season 6 aired 16 episodes from October 11th, 2015 to April 3rd, 2016, the 68th through 83rd episodes of the whole series. Most of the season is adapted from the 14th volume of the graphic novel, titled No Way Out, through the first half of volume 17, titled Something to Fear. It's the first season not to feature an episode written by series creator Robert Kirkman. Before 6, he wrote or co-wrote at least one episode per season. Aw, the show's finally leaving the nest. According to the cast and crew, there's more comedy in this season than there's ever been. Then again, with the places this season starts to go, there's more of a need for it than ever. There's also more walkers than ever. One day on set brought 300 undead extras, the most the show has ever used at once. For the first time beginning this season, the show is using digital augmentation to help with the zombification process. This new tool allows the effects teams to get rid of noses or shrink rib cages, adjustments that aren't possible with prosthetics alone. Though the zombies get more and more decayed each season, showrunner Scott Gimple has stated that he isn't interested in making them completely skeletal. They've always got to be putting some muscle into it. For the new full-time cast, fake characters are created for the casting process. This is to avoid spoilers, but it also means that no one knows who they're playing. For example, Corey Hawkins joined the cast as Heath, but his casting call was for Delvin. Some of the casting, though, is all in the family. Sonequa Martin Green's husband, Kenrick Green, came on as Alexandrian Scott. Meanwhile, the returning cast just needed to get back into character. Norman Reedus got back into character this season with Coffee, Motorhead, and Candy Crush. Apparently, he's dropped hundreds of dollars on Candy Crush. Badass, Daryl. Maybe he should be spending that money on Coffee, though, because Reedus once showed up late to set. He wouldn't be the only one to do that this season, but more on that later. Shooting had to begin without him, so they dressed up a crew member in his wardrobe to stand in. When Reedus arrived, he stripped down and demanded his costume back.
And I ran up and got naked, and I was like, bring that bike back here.
In celebration of the season premiere, a panel was held at Madison Square Garden in New York. The cast all attended in black tie fashion, a far cry from the gutsy get-ups this season. Even old cast members made appearances. Lenny James finally returned as Morgan and a series regular. Creator Robert Kirkman has noted that Morgan is very different and cooler than his counterpart in the comic books, and that it will re-energize the already energized show. When Rick asks Morgan who taught him how to use a staff, Morgan stays quiet. Rick retorts with a callback to episode 1. I ask, you answer. Common courtesy, isn't it? Morgan said the same thing to Rick when interrogating him about his wound. Keep an eye on Rick's beard. It's a barometer for how crazy he's feeling. Shaving it at the end of season 5 was an indicator that he was ready to be domesticated, but by the end of season 6, we can see its triumphant return. While Andrew Lincoln may be safe from walker bites, it doesn't mean he's safe from tick bites. While shooting the premiere, Lincoln got 5 ticks in just 1 week. You know what they say, a tick a day keeps the walkers away. Don't listen to that, I'm not a doctor. The first of the show's controversial fake-outs came with Glenn's quote-unquote death in the episode Thank You. From the moment it aired, critics and viewers were unconvinced that Glenn was actually killed off, and were mad at the show for even trying to dupe them in that way. This led to some critically low reception during numerous episodes in the first half of the season. As of Here's Not Here, Steven Yeun's name was removed from the opening credits. This was likely done to further sell his fake-out death from the previous episode. Photos eventually surfaced of Steven Yeun in costume on set, not to mention he had just renegotiated his contract. So yeah, even walkers could tell that he wasn't going anywhere. While leaks such as these can be reassuring, they also suck for people trying to avoid spoilers. To try to prevent drones from sneaking shots, the production will often try to cover up key actors. Clothes, injuries, or whole people can be evidence of plot points to come. Here's Not Here is the second episode in the show's history to feature just one main cast member, focusing entirely on Morgan. The first episode to do this was Live Bait, which was all about the governor. The episode was shot out of order with the rest of the season. Even though it's the 4th episode aired, it was the 9th episode shot, following even the mid-season finale. Besides Greg Nicotero and Scott Gimple, no one saw the episode 4 script until it was time to film it. This secrecy led to speculation amongst the cast about what the episode was. See, even the cast spends time speculating. Gimple actually wrote the script while at Comic-Con in 2015. He even mentioned writing a long flashback script in the Walking Dead panel. Sadly, writing it limited the time he could spend at the convention. The episode was shot a ways away from the show's normal locations. Lenny James and John Carroll Lynch, who played Eastman, were the only familiar faces in the area. Their housings weren't far from one another either, which gave them bonding time during production. Eastman's shirt says, "Save Terrapins," which fans took as a connection to Enid eating a terrapin just a few episodes earlier. It's a subtle nod that Eastman is the Order in an orderless universe. Scott Gimple shot down the theory, but even Caitlin Nacon freaked out when she saw the shirt. It may, however, be a reference to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. After all, Eastman is named after the creator of the series, Kevin Eastman. Lenny James has noted that guest animal Tabitha is, quote, startlingly attractive for a goat.
Something strangely attractive about it. It's an attractive goat.
John Carroll Lynch agrees, and according to him, this isn't his first goat rodeo. When Morgan arrives at Father Gabriel's church in Coda, he puts a rabbit's foot, a pack of goo-goo clusters, and a bullet at the altar. And Here's Not Here, we finally learn where those items came from. Here's Not Here aired in a 90-minute time slot, making it the first extended episode that's not also a premiere or finale. Without commercials, it runs at 64 minutes. The two walkers that Maggie and Aaron encounter in the episode now are no random extras. They're former Alexandrians who were exiled, trying to make their return, played by random extras. Greg Nicotero has also said that one of the walkers was a homeless guy who lived and died down there. The unfurling of the sewer walkers from the ground was inspired by Ridley Scott's Alien. I thought this was a zombie show. Apparently, it's also a Swamp Thing show too. In Always Accountable, one of the walkers is designed after the DC turned Wes Craven monster. Sasha's line, "Self-awareness is a beautiful thing," is a callback to her former flame. Bob said the same thing to her back in Alone, and now she's imparting that knowledge to Abraham. Norman Reedus' motorcycle stunt double is the son of stunt coordinator Monty Simons. Reedus doesn't like him though, because he thinks he's a better looking Daryl than Daryl. The walker with the Cherokee Rose growing out of it is an homage to the episode Cherokee Rose. Greg Nicotero dropped the Easter egg in there as a callback to the Daryl Carroll moment from season 2. What exactly does this bit of symbolism mean? Well, we don't have all the answers. Let us know in the comment section what you think. At the time of airing, there was rampant speculation that the voice on the walkie-talkie at the end of episode 6 was actually Glenn. It turned out to be Eugene, which is usually a disappointment.
You try one of these, they're chewy.
The teaser at the beginning of episode 8 is one of Andrew Lincoln's favorites of the whole show. He enjoys how crazy and weird it was to follow the ants. Tova Felshew and Andrew Lincoln shot multiple takes of Deanna's death scene, each with varying emotions. The show went with the most reserved take, but Felshew prefers the emotional ones. Lincoln has said that the emotional ones may have been more Andrew missing Tova than Rick missing Deanna. Felshew tried to pitch plot lines for Deanna that could keep her on the show. One of them included becoming an ambassador to other survivor communities, with Rick as her muscle. Another revealed that her blood is the cure for the outbreak. It's a shocker they didn't go with that one. When Rick gutted the walkers to get the viscera for his disguise, he was channeling another horror movie, Jaws. He fancies himself like Dreyfus, cutting into the shark, and yes, I said fancies because Andrew Lincoln is British. Start to Finish was directed by Michael Satrazemis. His wife actually plays a walker in the episode too, which must have been a fun and possibly traumatic event for Michael. The episode is a post-credits scene that sets up the big bad guy for the second half of the season.
Your property now belongs to Negan.
In the sequence, Daryl, Sasha, and Abraham come face to face with a gang of bikers who serve Negan. The scene was later played on its own as a prologue closer to the premiere of Season 6B. The phrase that Negan's men use, right off the bat, is carefully selected foreshadowing. Jesus later says that the Hilltop was told the same thing before Negan beat one of the residents to death. Little did they know that the bat is very gruesomely literal. Oh, that is some tasty foreshadowing. Sit down before you fall down is becoming Morgan's catchphrase. He says it to Carol in Start to Finish, and has previously said it to Rick in the series premiere and Eastman in Here's Not Here. The 4 mini-mates in Sam's room are from Robert Kirkman's other comic series, Invincible. Those figures were actually Comic-Con exclusives too. When Alexandra Breckenridge was first cast as Jessie, the producers told her that she shouldn't read the comic books because the show often deviates from them. But in the case of her death, they didn't. She suspects that was why they didn't want her reading them. The quick cuts of Rick reminiscing about happy moments with Jesse was Scott Gimple's idea. It was part reminder of the life he could have had and part homage to a style of filmmaking from the 1970s. Scott Gimple cryptically wouldn't let Chandler Riggs cut his hair. Turns out that this was in preparation for him to lose his eyeball. The long hair helps the bandages blend into part of Carl's face. One of the changes from book to screen was how Carl loses his eye. In the comics, Douglas Monroe accidentally fires off his gun as he's being eaten by zombies and the stray bullet hits Carl. In the show, Ron shoots it out after tension between the two characters built up all season. Robert Kirkman actually thinks the show's execution was cooler because it had more conflict. According to Chandler Riggs, Carl was supposed to jump in front of Rick and take the bullet for him. It was that way in the script, and they even shot it like that. However, they changed the scene in editing to make it look more like an accident. Even now, Chandler Riggs' favorite episode of The Walking Dead is No Way Out. He gets chills watching it even though he was there to see it. Well, partially. The episode shares its name with Volume 14 of the comic. Carl losing his eye and the Andersons' demise are both part of the same volume. Ever wonder how the characters have survived this long without any serious injuries? Well, so has Andrew Lincoln. He's approached Scott Gimple and Greg Nicotero about getting him some visible facial scars. Unfortunately, scars take too much time to make. The leader of the Wolves never actually gets a name. However, Scott Gimple wrote out a whole backstory for him, along with several different names. At one point, it was Owen. Several scenes were cut out of the episode due to time constraints. However, as luck would have it, they ended up ahead of schedule. The scene with Carol and Morgan in the townhouse is one that was omitted but later shot. This episode establishes that walkers are drawn to fire, a behavior that's ironically opposite to normal monster movie conventions. Typically, fire is what keeps beasts away. The plot for the next world was concocted by Andrew Lincoln, Norman Reedus, and Greg Nicotero over Indian food. They were riffing about a Butch and Sundance episode where the two guys could just hang out. They pitched the idea to Scott Gimple, and he figured out a spot in the storyline that it actually fit nicely into. To prepare for the episode, Lincoln and Reedus actually hung out and watched Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. They even texted Robert Redford to let him know that they were watching it. Robert Kirkman compared the episode to Lethal Weapon, stating that it's the most fun episode they've ever had. What? Fun? On The Walking Dead? Enjoy it while it lasts. Despite being the funniest episode, there was still danger behind the scenes. Norman Reedus cut his finger on the glass of a vending machine while reaching into it. Yeah, you'll walk around with guns and machetes all day, but it's the vending machine that'll get you. The next world introduces the prominent comic book character Jesus. His real name in the comics is Paul Monroe, but for the show, they changed it to Paul Rovia. This is likely because they already had a Monroe family recently and didn't want him to get mixed up with them. Tom Payne plays Jesus, and it didn't take him long to get into character, literally. Payne became Jesus in the span of a week. He auditioned, was cast, and flew to Atlanta to film in just a few days. In the comics, Jesus is gay. Kirkman has said, though, that he wants Jesus' homosexuality to be as prominent as the other characters' heterosexuality, namely, not very. His sexuality on the show, though, wouldn't be confirmed until season 7. This makes Jesus one of a handful of gay characters on the show, although some argue that the numbers are dwindling, so we're rooting for you, Jesus. Carl can be seen reading an issue of Kirkman's comic, Invincible, with Enid. We've seen him with it in earlier episodes as well, after Michonne gave him a whole stack. In the uncut version of the episode, Rick drops an F-bomb. When Daryl asks him if Jesus is one of the people worth saving.
I like this guy. Now this guy.
This is the third F-bomb dropped on the show so far, none of which have been televised. The other two belong to Rick and Daryl.
You're with the wrong people.
That is, until the finale.
But swallow it, you most certainly motherfucking will.
Even though Rick's romance with Jesse was cut short, it still made an impact on him. The relationship opened Rick back up to his gushy romantic side, which allowed him to see the life he could have with Michonne. Denai Guerrera knew about Michonne before Andrew Lincoln did. He caught wind, though, when he noticed that she was acting weird and shy around him. She told him to go finish the script for episode 10, and when he did, he literally screamed. Then he ran to her trailer so they could freak out together. Scott Gimple was shipping Michonne long before he was even showrunner. One of his goals, beginning in season 4, was to guide the two characters to a place of companionship and trust so that a romance would occur naturally. A lot of discussion went into Michonne and Rick's sleeping positions. They needed to strike the right balance of intimacy, power, and partnership between them while also keeping it natural. Speaking of natural, those au naturel fighting stances weren't in the original script. Michonne was actually supposed to cover herself up with a sheet. However, Denai and Andrew decided that neither of them would be bashful in the presence of a stranger, and instead went for their weapons. When asking Glenn if he and Maggie were trying to get pregnant, Abraham says,
When you were pouring the Bisquick, you trying to make pancakes?
Well, fans heard that line and immediately turned it into a meme. This prompted Michael Cudlitz to start the Bisquick Challenge, where he encouraged fans to bring in boxes of Bisquick that would go to local charity. General Mills and Betty Crocker must be fans too, because they donated 1,000 boxes of Bisquick. And good thing we're not talking about babies. The Barrington House in Hilltop wasn't just a shooting location. The crew built it from the ground up over the course of 13 weeks. Yes, they went and built a real house. Ironically, the Barrington House is a real place in North Carolina. The buildings even look architecturally similar. It's a great spot for your Walking Dead themed wedding. Because the Hilltop colony was built entirely from scratch, it closely resembles the way it's depicted in the comics. People on set even got emotional seeing it because it was such a perfect likeness. Xander Berkeley, who plays Hilltop colony leader Gregory, has a history of playing slick, treacherous characters. In fact, he's even told Scott Gimple that he hopes that his daughters can one day see him play something who's not like that. Sorry, Mr. Berkeley, maybe one day. Ethan, the Hilltop colonist who stabs Gregory, is played by MMA fighter Justin Kuslin. Andrew Lincoln joked that Kuslin is not only a trained fighter, but twice his size, which added to the comedy of the scene. Not Tomorrow Yet is Alana Masterson's last appearance of Season 6. She left on maternity leave and wouldn't be back until the Season 7 episode, Swear. Even in this episode, she was 9 months pregnant. At the Savior's Outpost, Glenn finds a wall with Polaroids of people's skulls bashed in. This is more foreshadowing to Negan's smashing debut at the end of the season, which Glenn may or may not be at the receiving end of. One of the Polaroids on Negan's victim wall appears to be Big Tiny, one of the inmates from Season 3. He was killed by Tomas though, so this is more of an Easter egg than a plot connection. Speaking of familiar faces, there are some cameos hidden in the lineup of Gregory lookalikes. One of them actually is a Gregory. It's episode director and special effects artist Greg Nicotero. The other is Johnny Depp. The Savior's Satellite Outpost used to be a functioning building. When the location scouts found it, Scott Gimple liked it so much that they designed the episode around its layout. The Walking Dead loves to reference other horror movies, and there's a big one in the same boat. Carol and Maggie are being held prisoner in the same room that's in the first Saw. Most actors join the cast of the show after getting a call from their agent. Alicia Witt realized she'd be joining as Paula when Scott Gimple started following her on Twitter. Getting down with your dead self is one of the most fun parts of getting killed on The Walking Dead. Sadly, Alicia Witt didn't get to play undead Paula. The faceless makeup took too long to apply, so they had to dress someone else up as her while she shot her scenes. The rig that the special effects team used to impale a walker is called a Steve Martin rig. It's named after the comedian's old arrow through the head bit, and it works the same way. The pole device is a U-shaped belt that sits around the walker's chest. Denise's death is actually a hand-me-down of Abraham's death in the comics. Like him, she is in the middle of a monologue when she's shot and continues to speak. In the comics, she's bit by a zombie and euthanized by Michonne. The orange backpack that Daryl has in Twice as Far is the same one Rick took from the hitchhiker in Clear. That backpack has popped up numerous times since that episode. It's used by Carl in Isolation, by Glenn in Inmates, and was temporarily taken by Terminus and then stolen by the Hunters in A. East was originally titled The Calm Before. This not only references the impending Negan storm next episode, but also Volume 7 of the comic. However, Volume 7 has nothing to do with the storyline, which may have contributed to the change. The pistol that Carl finds has a carving of a bat strung up with barbed wire. This is foreshadowing of Negan's bat, Lucille, who would finally make its debut next episode. Norman Reedus doesn't seem like the emotional type, but he was getting very teary-eyed during a scene with Glenn in East. Since he and Stephen Yeun have known each other for so long, it's easier for them to act off each other. In one take, when Yeun said, "Come back home," it hit Reedus in just the right spot to get him weepy. Various places listed the title of the finale as Something to Fear before it was changed to Last Day on Earth. Had it not changed, it would share a title with Volume 17 of the graphic novel, which covers the same plot. When the finale aired, it was the first 90-minute episode of the show, following Days Gone By, What Lies Ahead, Conquer, First Time Again, and Here's Not Here. That also makes it the third this season, more than any other before it. The Viscasil Public Library in the finale is an allusion to the Academy Award-winning artist Joe Viscasil. He's legendary for his work on such Hollywood spectacles as Star Wars, Terminator, and Independence Day. He passed away in 2014, so Greg Nicotero included the tribute to him. One of the big promises of the season was that it would end with a major game changer. This turned out to be the introduction of Negan, who Robert Kirkman described as an atomic bomb. An uncut version of Negan's entrance is available on the Season 6 Blu-rays, and it's a bomb alright, an F-bomb. There are 23 uses of the word in total, bumping the show total up from 3 to 26. Members of the cast were quoted as having extreme reactions to the finale. Andrew Lincoln said it made him feel sick and that he couldn't sleep, resulting in him being late to set for the first time ever. Lauren Cohen described the experience as raw and that she didn't even want to go to work that day. Jeffrey Dean Morgan was cast as the lovably brutal Negan. When he first got the call from his agent, he was told that he'd been offered the role of a major Walking Dead villain. Morgan, a fan of the series, crossed his fingers and asked what the villain's name was, hoping that it would, in fact, be Negan. Since he was still working on The Good Wife, Morgan had to find 2 days that he could head to set, and those came just 3 days later. That meant that he had to learn the emotional, dramatic 12-page monologue in less than a week. Here's a crazy change from the comics. Negan has a beard. Yes, Morgan's role on The Good Wife required him to be fuzzy, so when he flew south to shoot the scene, he had to keep his beard. That's also how the line about shaving ended up in there. The cast took a vow of silence about the deaths in the finale. Andrew Lincoln compared it to the Mafia's Omerta. For them, it's not just a character dying or a job ending, it's losing a friend. So it's pretty painful to talk about. Despite the gut-wrenching intensity of the scene, Andrew Lincoln said it was the greatest sense of unity he felt amongst the cast and crew since season 1. The atmosphere was exciting for everyone involved, all whom wanted to get the audience on the edge of their seats and then smack them with a bat. Many fans were not happy with the cliffhanger ending, especially considering the hype going into the finale. Greg Nicotero tried to level with fans, asking them to trust that it's in the best interest of the story and that the payoff would be worth the wait. The entire season only takes place over the course of about 51 days, and about 30 of them are time skipped. Many episodes are set concurrently or just later on the same day. All said, the death toll of the season is about 90. That makes it the second most lethal season after season 4.
And now for the final season we'll be covering in this video, season 7. If you want more, make sure you let us know down in the comments. I'm sure we could scavenge some more Walking Dead facts up for you. Stick around though, because there is more Walking Dead action after this. But for now, here's 107 The Walking Dead Season 7 facts you should know.
It took 7 years, but Rick and his merry band of Walker Slayers finally met their match, and his baseball bat. I'm Kyle with Cinematica, and we're taking a stroll down Easy Street to learn how AMC brought Robert Kirkman's darkest, most brutal arc to life. You can breathe, you can blink, you can cry, for 107 facts about The Walking Dead Season 7.
Hot diggity dog!
But be warned, we've got spoilers ahead. Let's get started. If this season turned the waterworks on for you, don't worry, you're in good company. Andrew Lincoln and Norman Reedus also spend a lot of time this season crying. This was done on purpose to show just how bad things have become for their tough characters. In fact, according to Reedus, the two of them can just look at each other and it'll make the other start crying. It's not all tears on set though. Xander Berkeley is apparently a great improviser and would frequently keep the cast laughing with his spontaneous wisecracks. He'd especially mess with Andrew Lincoln, tossing in little lines like, "Richie, Ricky." Jeffrey Dean Morgan also gets a kick out of screwing with Lincoln. Since the British actor keeps up his American accent even when the cameras aren't rolling, Morgan is always trying to get him to break character. It's just like Negan and Rick. Talk about method acting. It's all good between Morgan and Lincoln though. In fact, they'd sometimes end their scenes together by hugging. This shocked the rest of the cast and crew, who were used to seeing Lincoln drive himself into a dark place character-wise and then get stuck there. To get into character this season, Lincoln listened to Radiohead and David Bowie. He said that he had the song Black Star on quite a bit during the first 2 episodes. Give the song a listen and you'll see why. Josh McDermott, on the other hand, found it harder to listen to music when he was in character this season. He'd get so deep into Eugene's character that music began to sound different to him, so he'd drive home at the end of the day in silence, probably with a scared, vacant stare. And with good reason, too. The season premiere was only the 3rd time that 2 series regulars were killed off in the same episode.
Back to it.
The other times being Herschel and the Governor in Too Far Gone, and Gareth and Bob in 4 Walls and a Roof, and half of those characters were bad guys. And let's not forget that Glenn's been on the show since season 1. The last season 1 character to be killed off was Andrea in Welcome to the Tomb, which was 4 seasons ago. The title of the episode, The Day Will Come When You Won't Be, is a reference to season 1 too. It's a callback to Jenner's warning to Rick at the CDC and TS-19.
The day will come when you won't be.
According to director Greg Nicotero, it's because this episode sees Rick and his crew in a place of helplessness, being given the choice to give up or fight back, just like in TS-19. Before the episode aired, several places reported that the episode would be titled Signs. The walkers on Rick and Negan's field trip paid homage to a couple other horror movies. Nicotero said that their emergence from the smoke was a reference to John Carpenter and a scene from the movie The Funhouse. The writers tried to avoid killing off Glenn, but there were too many storylines that hinged on it. According to Robert Kirkman, so much of who Rick, Negan, and Maggie become are dependent on Glenn's death in this moment, so sparing him just didn't work for the story. Even Andrew Lincoln tried to find a way around their deaths. He wrote countless emails to showrunner Scott Gimple in an attempt to spare their lives, but Gimple wouldn't budge. You just can't reason with death. It gets even more awkward because Kirkman wrote Glenn's death after Stephen Yeun was already cast. It was the first death he wrote after the show started, so he felt bad for knowingly cutting Yeun's time short. Yeun wouldn't have wanted anyone else to steal Glenn's death though. It's such an iconic moment in the comics that Yeun wanted to keep the honor of having his brains beaten out. So in the same way, Glenn's death wasn't a surprise to Yeun, nor was Abraham's death a surprise to Michael Cudlitz. In fact, Scott Gimple told both of them as early as July 2015 that they would be biting the bat sometime around the end of season 6 or early season 7. To keep the deaths a surprise to the fans, however, the crew filmed death scenes for every single character in the lineup. These red herrings got put to good use in the episode itself as Rick imagines everyone on his team being beaten down by Negan. They even shot a death scene for episode director Greg Nicotero. He thought it was only fair since he made everyone else get hit that day. Andrew Lincoln had the honor of clobbering Nicotero, at least until Jeffrey Dean Morgan saw and decided to take a swing too. Leave it to the professional. One of the death scenes actually ended up leaking. The sequence shows Maggie at the receiving end of Lucille, taking it like a champ and spitting blood at Negan. This leak was likely done on purpose by AMC to divert expectations of the real deaths. Every single cast member stayed on set for support for the entire duration of the shoot, even during the baseball bat beatdown inserts. According to Scott Gimple, the atmosphere on set was cold since everyone knew they were losing 2 friends and co-workers. Of course, they were shooting in Atlanta, so it wasn't literally cold. Jeffrey Dean Morgan actually had ice packs hidden inside his leather jacket to beat the heat, since it's certainly not leather jacket weather. The prior knowledge of their characters' deaths helped motivate the actors in their last scenes together. For example, Michael Cudlitz knew that his breakup with Rosita, or his send-off to Eugene, would be among his last times working with them, which loaded up these parts with genuine dramatic subtext. As for his final goodbye to Sasha, Abraham was supposed to give her a final look before Negan killed him. However, they already filmed the POV shot, which showed no such look. Cudlitz got the idea of shooting her a peace sign as a throwback to their little signal from season 6. Here's a bit of levity though. On Cudlitz's last day of shooting in Alexandria, his fellow cast members put on bright orange handlebar mustaches as a tribute to Abraham, just like they did for Scott Wilson with suspenders. Stephen Yeun also got a post-mortem celebration. At his death dinner, the cast went karaokeing and sang I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys while dressed as Abraham. I guess those mustaches got multiple uses. Of course, a big death brings out all the throwback stories. Lauren Cohen recalled how the first night she arrived in Georgia, she went out for Korean barbecue with Yeun and Sarah Wayne Callies. They also spent the 4th of July at Yeun's apartment singing, playing guitar, and avoiding the rain. Robert Kirkman, on the other hand, recalled Yeun's first day of shooting. They made him run around on an empty stomach, causing him to almost black out on day 1. If any of you felt your souls being crushed or slowly beaten down by a baseball bat by that Fast and Furious style family dinner shot, there's more where that came from. That was actually one snippet of a full scene that had to be cut for time. You can watch the whole thing online or on Blu-ray though, if you're feeling really masochistic. For those who thought last season's cliffhanger was done by the writers to make more advertising money, Nicotero revealed that he actually spoke to AMC about airing the season 7 premiere with no commercials at all. But of course, they turned him down. Many fans were shocked and disgusted by how graphic Glenn and Abraham's deaths were. In response to the controversy, executive producer Gail Ann Hurd assured viewers that the rest of the season would be toned down. However, Scott Gimple later clarified that while the violence wouldn't be toned down, it would never hit the high of that narrative moment ever again. Jeffrey Dean Morgan still gets flack from fans though. While out for coffee with Norman Reedus, Morgan was approached by an old lady who stuck her finger in his face and called him a fucking asshole. Reedus burst out laughing while Morgan continued to be accosted by the granny vigilante. Morgan's son idolizes him though. While he hasn't watched the show, he does dress up like Negan and once played Eeny Meeny Miny Mo with the Morgan family chickens.
I'm like thinking I'm gonna see like chickens splattered all
Yeah.
over the coop.
They were all fine.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
And yes, I did just say Morgan family chickens. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is really more like Herschel in real life. He has a fully stocked farm in upstate New York. He also co-owns a candy store with Paul Rudd. But his home is quite different than Negan's home, with its collection of corpse Polaroids. In the montage during this episode, you can see a photographer taking a picture of Glenn's body, not unlike the ones Glenn found last season. The sanctuary may be a terrifying place if you're abducted and forced to work for Negan, but not if you're on set. They have a ping pong table that the cast actually uses between scenes. In fact, the Alexandria set is more grueling. The gate into town is so heavy that multiple stagehands have to stand off screen and help open it. The grunts at the sanctuary were originally intended to wear jumpsuits, not sweatsuits. However, it reminded Scott Gimple of the Dharma Initiative from Lost, so they had to find something else. The sweatsuit grunts are also categorized by letter, A, S, and F. According to writer Angela Kang, these stand for asshole, fuckface, and shithead. Apparently that makes Daryl an asshole. The letter A has become a theme on the show though. Not only is it on Daryl's shirt, it was also on the train car that the characters were locked inside of at Terminus, on the stamp Rick got from Sam, and spray painted onto Father Gabriel's church. Here's some casting fun facts for the episode The Well. The production team cast twins for the scene in which Carol is flickering from the living to dead world. One twin played the human, and the other twin played the walker. That saved them time on the makeup application. Ben's younger brother Henry is played by Maxon Lintz. In real life, Maxon is Madison Lintz's younger brother, aka Carol's daughter Sophia. Kari Payton has joined the cast as Ezekiel. You may have heard about him over on ChannelFrederator because he's also a voice actor. He's probably best known for his role as Cyborg in all things Teen Titan. Payton's Ezekiel voice was based off his great uncle Neb, a security guard with an unfittingly bassy, majestic voice, way more fitting for a king. In Payton's audition, they tried to mislead him by telling him that his character had a lion. You know, definitely not Shiva. To make sure that Shiva is always the right scale for a tiger, the visual effects team scan the set and take measurements. That allows them to estimate how big she'll be and where Peyton should interact. Dwight uses the song Easy Street by the Collapsible Hearts Club to torture Daryl in the episode The Cell. It jumped from being an indie song to being on the top 100 singles chart after the episode aired. Who says success doesn't happen overnight? But seriously, I never want to hear that song again. Selecting a song was a challenge in and of itself. Apparently bands don't like it when you approach them asking to use their song for torture. Well, you're good sport, CHC. The torture song hadn't been picked yet when the episode was being filmed. Fortunately for Norman Reedus, he never actually had to hear it over and over again. The song was released in 2014, meaning it wasn't even out when the zombie apocalypse began. Actually, come to think about it, what year was that anyway? And while we're on the topic, how old is Carl at this point? According to Chandler Riggs, Carl doesn't have a set age. It's because Riggs is growing up faster than the timeline of the show, so he's outgrown any number they set. Case in point, this entire season takes place over the course of just 19 days. The gang has had less than 1 month of Negan. When Dwight can't sleep, he puts on the show Who's the Boss. Norman Reedus actually met Tony Danza years earlier at a rap party, and Danza expressed interest in being on the show. Thanks to Dwight's insomnia, he finally made it on. Sort of. There may be some romance in Daryl's future. Rita suspects that he and Sherry may end up together sometime down the line, and writer Angela Kang implied that anything is possible. A lot of people are still holding out for the SS Daryl Carol, but Sherry could be nice in the meantime. Norman Reedus has eaten some weird things in the past, but dog food has not been added to those ranks. The meat in Daryl's sandwiches was actually a mix of vegan sausages with apple butter. I'm not sure if that's better or worse than dog food. The alcohol also isn't real alcohol. Dwight and Laura's table hockey shots are actually Coke diluted with water. After the episode's service aired, fans began to speculate that Daryl and Rick were communicating in Morse code. Daryl's blinks seemed very explicit, and a Morse code poster could clearly be seen in Rick's house. Scott Gimple shot down the theory, saying that Andrew Lincoln and Norman Reedus either had the sun in their eyes or they were just flaunting their bromance. While occupying Alexandria, Negan breaks open a can of Orange Crush, the same soda that Denise was trying to get for Tara before she was killed. Fans also took the soda's name as foreshadowing of Abraham's death, so now Negan seems to be enjoying the spoils of that death. That's dark. It was certainly tense between Negan and Olivia on screen, but not for Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Anne Mahoney. Behind the scenes, the two of them had to hold in the giggles since Mahoney is so funny. Tom Payne wears hair extensions when playing Jesus. That means that he needs to keep his own hair clean and voluminous so that it'll blend with the extensions. He's growing it out now though, so maybe one day we'll see those luscious locks grimed up a bit. Oceanside made its first appearance in Swear. Though it has been mentioned in the comics, it hasn't actually been seen until now. The Sandwalker Sandwalker's emergence from the ground is an ode to the classic Dead Rising trope of the zombie hand reaching out from the ground. One of the Sandwalkers is actually a celebrity in the zombie world. Greg Nicotero modeled the makeup job after the poster boy of the classic Lucio Fulci horror flick Zombie. Alana Masterson did all her own stunts this episode. That's especially impressive considering that she just had a baby, had only 4 days of stunt prep, and had to stop every 3 hours to nurse her baby. She is a strong woman. It was also really hot that day. The sand zombies had to be specially qualified given the temperature, and even crew members were turning white and nearly passing out. The episode Swear marked a series low in viewership that hadn't been seen since season 3. It premiered to 10.40 million viewers and only rose to 15.10 total. Still huge overall, but a bit of a hit on the Walking Dead streak. In Sing Me a Song, Spencer tells Eugene that his mother used to say pain would be useful someday. This is the same quote that Deanna had written on the map of Alexandria in the episode Now, albeit in Latin. The song referenced in the episode title is Carl's, and Chandler Riggs was not excited to sing it. In fact, he tried to cry through as much of it as he could so he could mask his bad singing voice with vocal breaks. Maggie's new wardrobe, which includes a hat and gloves, is an homage to Glenn and Abraham. The hat is reminiscent of the one Glenn wore in the early seasons of the show, while Abraham used to rock the fingerless gloves. In the comics, it wasn't Rosita who shoots at Negan and hits Lucille. In fact, it was Negan's good little pal, Carl, and the whole eyeless thing would explain why he missed. Rosita's badass new scar is another comic substitute. In the books, the facial scar belongs to Andrea, who's still alive and kicking. The mid-season finale involved work with a boat, so you know what that means. The perfect time for some nautical nonsense. In the latest of Andrew Lincoln and Norman Reedus' never-ending prank war, Lincoln straddled Reedus' motorcycle with a sex doll and loaded it onto the ship before casting it back out into the lake. Your move, Daryl. Zombie icon Dr. Tongue from Day of the Dead can be seen leaning against a wall outside the kingdom, just another one of Nicotero's many nods to the Walking Dead ancestors. Sadly, a mid-season finale means someone's gotta die, and in this one, we lost a brother, Fat Joey.
Without Fat Joey, Skinny Joey is just Joey.
Apparently, Fat Joey's send-off was shot as way more graphic, with an exploding blood packet and everything. Actor Joshua Hoover assumes they toned it down because Spencer's disemboweling was already so graphic. After all, fans were still reeling from the premiere. Tara seems awfully quiet when she and the gang meet Ezekiel in the mid-season premiere, right? That's because that's not Tara at all. Alana Masterson was still shooting scenes from Swear, so that's actually a body double standing in the shadows there. Here's another secret identity reveal. The Kingdom kids at the archery setup are actually Nicotero's children. Man, what an awesome childhood. Rick's speech about the Rock in the Road, you know, from the episode Rock in the Road, wasn't given to Andrew Lincoln until the night before filming. Nicotero took it out of his director's cut, but it not only came back, it came back with a vengeance as the episode title. Rick and Michonne's cable car tripwire wasn't originally part of the script. The initial plan was for Rosita to toss a stick of dynamite at them. However, Nicotero wanted to do something different since they'd already blown up walkers before. Gotta keep those kills fresh. There's no TV magic when Carl and Tara are pushing the cars uphill into place. That was real muscle from Chandler Riggs and Alana Masterson out in the Georgia heat. Meanwhile, Christian Serratos just had to sit there with the car in neutral. We've talked about how music helps the actors get in character. For Rick and Michonne's car hot wiring scene, Nicotero decided to play the Mission Impossible theme. This made Andrew Lincoln crack up, which is definitely not in character for Rick. Nor was it in character when Lincoln burst out laughing while shooting the pantry scene after Savior Simon, played by Stephen Ogg, dealt out passionate improv. Lincoln broke character. Rock in the Road was dedicated to James Heltebridle. Heltebridle was a prop assistant on the production crew and sadly died in a car crash on the way home from set. Gregory's instantly quotable delivery of the word rhetorical is actually an homage.
Rhetorical!
Nicotero told him to say it that way as a nod to A Fish Called Wanda, wherein Kevin Kline delivers the word disappointed in a similar way.
Disappointed!
The episode New Best Friends saw the dramatic reunion between Carol and Daryl. Don't worry though, because Melissa McBride and Norman Reedus have kept in contact all along. In fact, they often text each other during the episodes. The episode also features a union between Daryl and his third crossbow. He began the series with one, which he then replaced with another from Morgan's stash in Clear. Dwight stole that one last season, so we're up to lucky number 3. The Heapsters aren't from Robert Kirkman's source material. They were invented completely for the show. Funny, because they're one of the most comic book-ish things on the show. The spiky scavenger walker, Winslow, is played by special effects artist Gino Crognali. Crognali has played 3 other walkers on the show. The man loves to get down in the dirt. The cat statue that Rick grabs at the end of the episode is a callback to Clear. In one of Michonne's first and most endearing moments, she picks up a cat statue to bring home with her. However, she loses it after they flee the prison in Too Far Gone. Like the rest of his acting, Andrew Lincoln's smiling is method acting too. He asked Alana Masterson to do something to make him smile at the end of New Best Friends, so she pinched his butt. So yeah, you're looking at a butt-pinching grin right there. Josh McDermott improvised his line, "Pump your brakes, Red," in the episode Hostiles and Calamities. It's actually a callback to a line he once said to Abraham in the season 6 episode Twice as Far. His line where he says he's not lawful, neutral, or chaotic is also a reference, but not to something from The Walking Dead. He's referring to the alignment system from Dungeons & Dragons. We see more of Eugene's nerdy side when he's playing Yar's Revenge. Even though the visual on screen is just a loop, Josh McDermott still came in on his day off to play real arcade games so he could make it look more real. Although maybe McDermott should have been practicing his science instead. While rehearsing one of Eugene's tricks, McDermott shot off one of the surgical gloves, which blazed off in a trail of fire. His mullet was almost singed in the accident. In the episode Say Yes, during the scene when Tara is talking to Judith, Alana Masterson was actually talking to a tennis ball. Why? It's too difficult to get babies to stay quiet and listen for that long. Melissa McBride happened to be free during the scene though, so she offered to lay down on the ground as a stand-in for the tennis ball. We're loving us some Rishon this season, and apparently so is Andrew Lincoln's mom. Apparently she's been shipping the two of them together for years. While trying to show off a staff move to his Aikido trainer, Lenny James messed the move up and sent the staff crashing into his TV screen, which was playing The West Wing. It went right through Josiah Bartlett's head. Speaking of going through heads, the flashbacks going through Morgan's head while he's screaming in the street in the episode Bury Me Here weren't originally planned. Scott Gimple saw how powerful a performance Lenny James gave and decided to add them in to increase the chaos of the moment. Gimple also added the choking sounds that Richard made as Morgan strangled him. As in, Gimple himself made the choking sounds on a soundstage, and he nearly threw up doing them. The line, "If the feet aren't right, nothing's right," comes from a real-life conversation between Lenny James and Scott Gimple. At the beginning of each season, the showrunner meets with the actors to discuss their roles, and that little nugget originated there. True to the episode title Bury Me Here, Carol was going to be seen burying some flowers. However, that was too obvious of an allusion to the grove, so she planted tomato seeds instead. Just look at the tomatoes, Lizzie. Glenn's death weighs heavily on Daryl, especially when it comes to Maggie. After all, as Cohen points out, this isn't the first time Daryl's been involved in the death of Maggie's loved ones. He carried Beth out of the hospital after she was killed a few seasons earlier. In the finale, pay attention to the lighting during Sasha and Eugene's scene in the sanctuary corridor. Every time Eugene talks, they're surrounded by darkness, and every time Sasha talks, they're in the light. A little poetic yin and yang from the director. Here's another poetic director's choice. When Morgan meets up with the Kingdom team, the characters are standing right behind Nick and Norman's, a restaurant co-owned by Nicotero. Wait, is that poetic or is that just product placement? Maybe both. Over at the Hilltop Colony, there was a change of plans thanks to baby Judith. Maggie was supposed to be holding Judith during her discussion with Jesus, but the baby kept repeating Lauren Cohen's words, so they ended up putting her on the ground for the scene instead. Michonne's tower fight is adapted directly from the comics, but with a few elements tweaked in translation. For instance, in the comics, it's Andrea's fight, not Michonne's, and Andrea is fighting a savior, not a heapster. So it's the same fight, but completely different. Similarly, Sasha has been adapting many of Holly's plot points from the comics, and the finale is no exception. Her attempted rape by David is repurposed, as well as her delivery back into Alexandria as a walker. The difference is that Holly was killed by Negan, whereas Sasha kills herself tactically. Aside from the characterization difference between Holly and Sasha, the change was made thanks to Fear the Walking Dead. According to Scott Gimple, the spin-off already did a stealthy walker delivery as per Holly's original death, so it took a straight adaptation off the table. There was speculation that Sasha was killed off so Sonequa Martin Green could be in Star Trek Discovery. However, these things happened the other way around. She was written off the show and then cast in Discovery. The announcement of her casting just had poor timing.
Alright, now that we've relived the first handful of seasons through a smattering of facts, let's relive some trauma. The Walking Dead has always had quite a way with death. They almost make it like an art. Sure, amidst a world-ending zombie infestation, death might seem a little run-of-the-mill after a while. But every once in a while somebody died and it really hit home. Brutality usually had something to do with it. Cinematica cataloged some of the worst possible ways to go on The Walking Dead, and I thought we could enjoy these together. 8 terrible deaths from The Walking Dead.
They don't call AMC's hit show The Walking Dead for nothing. Sure, there are endless swarms of walkers traveling the world on a fugue-like hunger mission, but our favorite characters are the real dead men walking. They're all one wrong move away from the chopping block, and at any given moment that knife, or sword, or bat, or herd of walkers is coming down to take them out. It's just a matter of who, when, and how. Hey guys, I'm Alyssa with Cinematica, and today we're revisiting some of the gnarliest, nastiest, and bitiest deaths that The Walking Dead has ever thrown our way. At some point or another, every character has to look death in the eye, or at least lose an eye, or a leg. And let's be real, there are more severed arms on this show than in all of Star Wars. Basically, death is never pretty and rarely expected, which is why we love this show so damn much. So brace yourself, because Cinematica is reliving 8 terrible deaths on The Walking Dead. Let's get started. Number 8, the Anderson family. Morbidity level, 4 zombie ears out of 5. During the walker infestation of Alexandria this past season, Rick and the gang pulled the old cover yourself in guts and pretend to be a walker so they can't smell you trick. Oldest one in the book. Young Sam, however, broke the act when he started to think back on Carol's maternal words of wisdom. The walkers are going to kill you, you powerless child. This sent him directly into a distinctly unwalker-like frenzy as he called for Jesse, which then got the attention of the Horde in the process. They tag-team devoured Sam in one of the most disturbing, non-child-friendly moments since Sophia's zombification in Season 2. Honorable death mention to Sophia. To instantly follow it up with the death of Jesse, who we guess Rick was having some kind of fling with, but we're totally Team Roshone, so whatever. Just up the death ante to levels that would make even a Walking Dead veteran viewer go, good gracious Ignatius. Just a warning, this is not the only child death on this list, and not the only one that Carol has had a hand in, so stay tuned. Number 7, Shane, morbidity level, 2 zombie ears out of 5. Season 2. The good old days. A simpler time for The Walking Dead. One where Shane and Lori were still alive and kicking, among other things. Wink wink. And Lori wanted Rick to maybe kill Shane while she was pregnant with his possible love child. Then Shane wanted to kill Randall, but Herschel didn't want them to kill anyone. Okay, maybe it wasn't that simple, but that's what made Shane's death at the hands of Rick so impactful. In the moment that would kickstart the Ricktatorship, the former lawmen realized that the only way to stop Shane was to put him down. It also proved to Rick that Shane had been right all along. The world was a very different place. There wasn't room for best friends or morals anymore, and the only way to survive was to fight. Ugh. Bum myself out there. Maybe the next entry will be more optimistic. Nope. Number 6, Dale, morbidity level, 4 zombie ears out of 5. Much like Hogwarts and its defense against the dark arts teachers, The Walking Dead has a long-standing issue of losing its moral compasses. In Season 2, that was Dale's role as he tried to encourage the gang to follow the better angels of their natures. When they didn't listen, Dale followed his better nature all the way out into the fields where he was ambushed by a walker who ripped his stomach right open. Readers of the comics were especially shocked by Dale's vile fate, as he wasn't set up to die this early in the graphic novels, nor in this way. Actor Jeffrey DeMunn decided to jump ship from the show after his longtime friend and collaborator Frank Darabont departed as showrunner, leading to this sadistic curveball from the writers. Parts of his would-be role were then handed off to Herschel, another moral compass who ended up eating dirt. And his original graphic novel death was then passed down to Bob, another moral compass character who, well, you know. Honorable death mention for Bob. Based on all this, here's a tip for surviving the apocalypse. Lose the moral compass. Go sociopath or go home. Speaking of, number 5, Lizzie and Mika. Morbidity level 3 zombie ears out of 5. Now that we mention it, sociopaths don't always do the best either. Just say the words "look at the flowers" to any Walking Dead fan and you will undoubtedly give them flashbacks to the most haunting episode of the show. The one where Lizzie's freaky case of zombie envy gets both her and her sister killed. In a scene pulled right from the pages of Mice and Men, crazy Lizzie kills Mika, knowing but not really knowing that she'll come back to life as a walker. Carol realizes that Lizzie is already too far gone and far too big a danger to be left alive, so she leads Lizzie away from the house and delivers the line that spawned 1,000 memes. Look at the flowers. Then she put her down. The whole scenario crushed viewers almost as much as it crushed Carol and Tyrese. And with no extra bloody details, it's the tragedy of the situation that made it one of the worst deaths the show has ever offered. Number 4, Glenn. Just kidding. Morbidity level, 4.5 zombie ears out of 5. Okay, let's do a fun one, shall we? Intestines. Who likes intestines? There's a whole bunch of them up for grabs in what is perhaps The Walking Dead's most infamous death scene, Glenn's. Well, it was actually Nicholas's, but we didn't know that for a while. It happened when the two were getting the high ground from some seriously hangry walkers in season 6. They climbed on top of a dumpster for safety, slow clap guys, that's one genius hiding place, only to find themselves totally surrounded. Nicholas took the only way out he could find through the barrel of a gun, then Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, taking Glenn down with him. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again because they were eating his entrails. Of course, this visual trickery was meant to lead viewers to believe that it was Glenn who became a Walker KFC bucket, especially when they struck Stephen Yun's name from the intro sequence. Obviously, the intro sequence is all-knowing, you guys. It would never lie. Well, just a few episodes later, it was revealed that Glenn survived by using Nicholas as a human meat shield, then rolling under the dumpster. Damn, if only the other characters on this list had known to hide under dumpsters, then everything would be fine. Also, note that this is the second time Glenn has seen one of his allies torn apart right before his eyes. The first time is coming up, but before that, number 3, Herschel. Morbidity level, 3.5 zombie ears out of 5. Imagine being Herschel. You're a kindly old Christian living on a farm, doing farm things, having a nice farm family, then bam, zombie apocalypse. Now the kindly neighbor folks are turning into monsters, your farm burns to the ground, half your family is eaten alive, you lose your leg, and Spaghetti Tuesdays are still not on Wednesday. Just an awfully quick escalation there. After all that, you'd think old One Leg would get to enjoy a nice prison retirement, but the governor had other plans. Despite Rick's best efforts to appeal to the governor's humanity, the tyrant showed that there was none left to appeal to and took a katana right to Herschel's neck. But the governor couldn't even get his head off in one blow. Come on, Philip, have you learned nothing from Ned Stark? It's gotta be one clean swipe. In the comics, the victim to the governor's rage bomb was Tyrese. Honorable death mention for Tyrese. But in the show, they delegated it to Herschel and spared Tyrese, because we can only feel our hearts break so many times at once. Enjoy your Spaghetti Tuesdays on the other side, Hirsch. Number 2, Noah. Morbidity level, 5 zombie ears out of 5. After Beth gave her own life to let Noah join the gang, honorable death mention for Beth, the least we could have hoped for as naive, innocent fans would be that he'd carry on her legacy. Whatever that legacy was, I guess singing and holding the baby? Well, in a sick way, he did follow her lead, since it wasn't long after her demise that he kicked the bucket too. Kick the bucket, by the way, is the child-friendly way of saying was literally torn apart by walkers face first as Glenn witnessed it all through a glass window. The already traumatizing kill is worsened by the fact that Noah had just gotten on track to become an important part of the Alexandrian ecosystem. Soon as that happens, though, you know he's done for. I mean, done. The scene is so gruesome that actor Tyler James Williams actually told his loved ones not to watch that part of the episode, since no one's got to see that. Especially Glenn, who has to deal with the an awful lot. In the end, all we can do is find solace in the fact that it was Noah who suffered this terrible end and not someone we really cared about, like Daryl or Glenn. Oh, speaking of, number 1, Negan's victim. Morbidity level, all the zombie ears. Finally, guys, number 1. The absolute worst, most awful, shocking, controversial, disgusting, did we mention awful? Death of the entire series, of the entire show that is AMC's The Walking Dead. This is the moment you've all been waiting for. The worst way to die on The Walking Dead is whoever it was that Negan killed. We don't actually know yet who died. The dead pool from around the internet points to Daryl or Glenn. Glenn again? Or perhaps it was just some unlucky cameraman. We won't know for sure until next season, though there's a good chance that whoever goes down will hold the title of the number 1 worst death by far. Apparently, Greg Nicotero and his team have been experimenting with a, quote, crazy exploding head test, end quote, which I wouldn't call good news for whoever bit the bat. Plus, those sound effects alone made us gag. We'll have to wait to see how morbid it gets, but the anticipation alone is already killing us.
Now that we're all sufficiently upset and disturbed, let's take a personality quiz. Which zombie walker from The Walking Dead are you? Let us know what you get down in the comments.
In the Walking Dead universe, there are survivors and there are zombies. And if confronted with the zombie apocalypse, most people out there would probably fancy themselves a survivor. But let's be honest with ourselves for a second. We wouldn't last 5 minutes. But just because you've lost your life doesn't mean you lose your sense of identity. In fact, the zombies on The Walking Dead have some of the biggest and best personalities around, even if they're a bit limited in their verbal and motor skills. Hey guys, Alyssa here with Cinematica, and we're asking a question that could quite possibly change your entire life. Which zombie from The Walking Dead are you? Because let's face it, we can't all be Daryl and Michonne. Let's get started. Did you grow up with your parents telling you that you were special? Do you know what's cool before anyone else does? Do you constantly point out to people that you liked a band, director, or author before they were popular? Under the hobbies and interests section of your resume, did you put down craft beer making, fixing my bike, and irony? Congratulations, you are Hipster Zombie. Just don't lose your fedora. It completes the look. Are you the most popular person in your group of friends? Do you often find people bending over backward to make you happy? Are you adorable but a little on the temperamental side? Do you love being worshipped for the princess that you are? Do you have an abnormally close relationship with your father? Congratulations, you are Penny, the governor's zombie daughter. Just make sure to run if you see a pretty lady with a sword. You're not so popular with her. Are you more of an introvert than an extrovert? Do you find it more relaxing to go to movies and restaurants on your own than in groups? Are you constantly questioning the status quo? Are you not one to follow the herd? Are people easily intimidated by you? Well, congratulations, you are Loner Zombie. Just remember, there's safety in numbers, even if those numbers are mindless sheep. Are you always on top of the latest beauty trends? Do you refuse to leave the house without your hair and makeup done? Do men want to be with you and women want to be you? Do you find yourself as the center of attention without even trying? Do you always look on point even when you're technically dead? Well, congratulations, you are Flowy Hair Zombie. Can we get the number for your stylist before you eat our face off? Thanks. Do you often slip under the radar without people noticing? Are you more of an indoor kid? Were you always the last person picked in gym class? Do people tell you to watch where you're walking pretty regularly? Are you the type who constantly finds themselves asking, could this day get any worse? And then it does? Congratulations, you are Waterlogged Well Zombie. We're sorry, maybe Loner Zombie could take you under his wing or something? Are you a creature of habit? Do you thrive on structure and organization? Do you hate to be the one to pick the restaurant? Are you loyal to a fault? Do people tell you you're great company? Do you respond well to authority figures? Congratulations, you are one of Michonne's zombie pets. Sorry about the arms and mouth thing, but getting to hang out with Michonne all the time is pretty cool, right? Do you always feel like the last person to know stuff? Are people drawn to your soulful, sensitive side? Are you a creative thinker, but do your creative ideas never go quite as planned? Do you have a penchant for poetry and melodrama? Does your moodiness often get you into problematic situations? Congratulations, you are Tree Hanging Zombie. Don't worry about it. Artists are only appreciated after they're dead anyway. Are you always on the move? Not the type who lets anything keep you down for long? Do you bring out the softer side in people with your good-natured personality? Do you have amazing upper body strength? Are you a glass half full type of person even though life keeps telling you otherwise? Congratulations, you are Bicycle Girl Zombie. You're not the type who'd let losing the lower half of your body get you down. Crawl on, girl. Are you an avid outdoorsman who loves camping and hiking? Do you find solace in the quiet moments in nature? Are you really into recycling, composting, and alternative energy sources? Do you know all the best farmers markets in your area? Do you often feel frustrated by humanity's lack of empathy? Congratulations, you are crushed by a tree branch zombie. Even as a zombie, you're still communing with nature. Captain Planet would be proud. Do you have a bit of a hedonistic streak? Are you constantly making diet and fitness resolutions and breaking them the next day? Do you find yourself looking into the mirror and muttering, nothing tastes as good as skinny feels? Are you the type who cancels plans just so you can stay home alone with a pizza and Netflix? Congratulations, you are Lori-eating zombie. It's okay. We've all got a Lori-eating zombie side to us. Pass the intestines, please. Are you selfless, almost to a fault? Always putting other people's needs ahead of your own? Has your inquisitive nature gotten you into some sticky situations before? Do you love science and medical research? Are you a natural-born teacher who loves to impart wisdom on anyone and everyone you meet? Congratulations, you are Autopsy Zombie. Your contribution to the medical community on The Walking Dead will never be forgotten.
We did it. We survived 770 facts about The Walking Dead and a couple extras. I'm honestly surprised. Somebody probably did turn into a walker while we ran through this, but I'm just gonna call that an occupational hazard. What did you think of the marathon? Did it get your lungs burning? If so, you're probably thankful because zombie apocalypses require a whole lot of running. Let us know some facts that stuck out to you down in the comments, and also let us know if you'd like to hear more about The Walking Dead on Cinematica. Make sure you like the video and subscribe too. Thanks for watching.